Jessica Crane for personal items and money from a GoFundMe fundraiser.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2119, Crane versus Crane.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, Miss Crane, this is a very sad case. This is your daughter.
Yes, it is.
And I don't know how many children that you have, but I know that you had a son who was in medical school, who was, how old, 25 years old?
30.
30. Sounds as if he was a popular young man. He was in an outing with friends, and sadly, he drowned.
Yes, he did.
And that happened,
women.
just a second, and that happened when?
That happened July 29th of this year.
This is what the case is about. His friends, in his memory, started a GoFundMe page.
Correct.
And there is approximately $40,000 in that GoFundMe page.
There was, yes.
I said approximately.
Yes.
There was. And your daughter is, for want of a better word, in charge of that Facebook page GoFundMe proceeds.
Correct.
And it is your claim that as the next of kin, because he died without a will, you are entitled to some or all of that Facebook page.
It doesn't even matter about the GoFundMe funds. I mean, that would be nice in a perfect world, but my daughter took everything. From the day my son passed, when they found his body at the river, the coroner gave her the keys to his truck, and she went to his apartment and emptied it. So I didn't get my chance to be Josh's mom for the last time. I didn't get to empty his apartment.
I can't cure that, madam.
No.
I can't cure that.
No.
And you can't put any sort of a value on anything that your daughter might have taken from that apartment because you don't know what was there.
Correct.
So I can't help you with that. In a perfect world, maybe she would have gone with you to the apartment, but she didn't.
Correct.
Based upon what I read, you were not there during the search for your son or the discovery of his body. Is that correct?
I was at home.
Okay. And your daughter was there?
Yes, she was.
And I assume that you were close to your brother?
Absolutely close to my brother.
Just curious, what prevented you? You were notified that your son was missing. What prevented you from going there?
My daughter was at the house the day Josh went missing, and we had my car torn apart. She left after they called her, and I definitely would have hitched a ride, but I didn't have a vehicle.
Your Honor, I got...
Just a second. Did you say she was at your house?
Yes, she was.
Well, then why didn't you go with her?
They didn't call till after she had left, apparently, and rather than come back and get me...
You mean she left to go someplace else?
She left to go home. Yeah, we were working on my car. She left to go home, and she got a call from Search and Rescue. I hadn't been answering my phone.
Oh, well, that's a different story. You hadn't been answering your phone. It wasn't as if nobody called you.
No, she didn't call.
It wasn't as if nobody called you. Did somebody call you?
Right, from Search and Rescue, yes.
Somebody called you?
Yes.
Okay. Mrs. Crane, this is your problem. If your son passed away without a will, and I'm sure that somebody else, maybe a professional has told you that, a legal professional has told you that, if your son passed away without a will, depending upon the laws in your jurisdiction, you, as his parent, might be construed as next of kin, and any property that he owned at the time of his death would transfer to you.
Right, correct, yes.
He didn't own the GoFundMe page at the time he died.
No, he did not.
So you don't get it.
Okay.
Any part of it.
Okay.
Your Honor, she already received funds from the GoFundMe as well.
Just a second. The people that set up the GoFundMe page, I assume, were classmates of your brother's?
Yes, they were his other fourth-year medical students that had reached out to me and asked if they could...
Don't tell me what they asked you. They set up a GoFundMe page. Do you have the paperwork for the GoFundMe page? I'd like to see it. Okay, so they raised $39,287.
Correct.
Okay. Is there anything that is in writing that makes you either the beneficiary of...
The organizer of...
Would you do me a favor, look it up?
Underneath the photo.
It does say that I am the beneficiary listed on there.
Thank you. You're Jessica.
I am.
Okay. Is organizing this fundraiser on behalf of Jessica Crane.
Mm-hmm.
That's her.
That has changed. Initially, it was for Joshua Crane, and with the legal
Just show me.
It's never been for...
Show me, just a second. Mrs. Crane.
Yes.
It wouldn't make any difference, but I'm willing to look at something that originally it was on behalf of somebody else.
The reason I'm here today is not because of the GoFundMe.
Your Honor, that's exactly why she's here. It's the money. It's always been about the money.
All right, how are you going to pay the note on a $14,000 truck?
I plan on returning to work. This incident has taken my job, believe it or not.
Actually, I don't believe it.
Your Honor, I work
Just
3 jobs.
Just a second. Actually, I don't believe it.
And later today.
What kind of narcotics were found inside the vehicle?
It's alleged that it was a...
No, it's not alleged. This is a police report. I'm asking you, what kind of narcotics were found in your car?
Carol Crane claims her daughter, Jessica Crane, is wrongfully keeping her son's property and money from his GoFundMe fundraiser.
This is your complaint. I'm suing the defendant, Jessica Crane, in the amount of $10,000 for my portion of my deceased son's GoFundMe account and personal items, including my son's guitars and his vehicle.
Correct.
Okay. Now you're not looking for his GoFundMe account.
I never really was, because I never knew the law on GoFundMe. I tried to find out and speak to someone about it and get legal advice, and I could never find anyone.
Well, it's very easy. He didn't own this property while he was alive, so you have no title to it. If they said that they're starting a GoFundMe page in the name of your son to be for the benefit of animal rescue, you wouldn't have any control over that.
No, it was meant for his funeral costs.
Which I also paid
for, It says,
for,
just
Your
a
Honor.
second, on behalf of Jessica Crane.
Right.
On behalf of Jessica Crane, just for my own curiosity, I'd like to know, your son was buried at some point?
He was cremated.
He was cremated.
And I have the receipts. I paid for his obituary, his cremation.
Okay, so what I'm asking you is, there were no serious funeral costs.
I got everything donated on my funeral.
That's not true as well.
Just a second. I'm asking you, Mrs. Crane, did you pay anything for your son's funeral?
No.
Okay, that's all. So it's not as if you had any outlay of money for this. You know what I find sort of troublesome? I find troublesome that his friends, because that sometimes happens, it's human nature, you feel so badly about something, you want to do something, and probably the easiest thing to do is to raise money. And the easiest thing for probably these people who are in their 20s and 30s is to start a GoFundMe page. I mean, it just would seem to me if they wanted to do a scholarship for him at the school, if they wanted to do something else, this is for those people out there who are watching, who are GoFundMe people. I've seen some of the more ridiculous ones, you know, and there are good-natured people out there who see these things and will donate $5 and $10. Oh, my goodness, they need funeral costs. Well, in this case, there were no issues, and almost all this money, $40,000, is left. What are you going to do with it?
So there's a couple things that I planned on doing with it. It's why the money has been sitting in an account.
I just want the people who donated this money to know what you're going to do with it. It's not for you to buy anything for yourself.
Your Honor.
That would be ridiculous. That's not what was in their minds. So I want to know who I'm dealing with.
Your Honor, after all of Josh's expenses were paid for, which I paid for using that money, I am very close with the dean at UC Davis, who is a good friend of my brother's as well, and they have talked about setting up a scholarship fund for my brother, and I was going to donate a portion of that money back if UC Davis decides to set that up on his behalf. And then I also wanted to set up scholarship funds for my sons, who my brother was very close with.
So what you're telling me is you're going to give a little to UC Davis for a scholarship in his name, and you're going to use some for your 2 sons for their education.
Absolutely.
Well, that's really not what it was intended to do. I'm just telling you, it was not what it was intended to do.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's how GoFundMes are set up. People can set them up for an intended purpose, and they're used for anything.
But I'm just telling the people out there, before you spend money on a GoFundMe page, make sure it's going to go to a place where you want it to go and for the intended purpose you want it, which is to somehow celebrate the life of this young man that was cut short so tragically. And it would seem to me, Miss Crane, you don't have to do anything, because They made you the beneficiary of this money. But it would seem to me that a stand-up person would take whatever is left of that and create a scholarship in his name at UC Davis, which is where he went to school. I can't order you to do that, but I'm just telling you, and everybody else out there, make sure if you have a good heart and a good spirit, you know where your money is going. Okay, so you're not entitled to any of the money. Now, did you take your brother's guitars?
I cleared out my brother's entire apartment.
Just a second.
Yes, Your Honor.
Just answer.
Yes, Your
Answer
Honor.
the question. And how many guitars did you take?
3.
Where are they?
They're at my house.
Now, I don't have to do this. Would you like one of your son's guitars?
Very
Would you
much
like
so.
one of your son's guitars? Do you have any of your son's guitars?
None.
Your Honor, my mom has a long history of substance abuse. She's bought gifts for me in the past, and she's pawned them off. And I would like to keep them in my family, so that's where they stay. So that's why I have possession of them, because I don't want them going to a pawn shop.
I was told I could visit one of my son's guitars at her home.
Just a second, do you play guitar?
No. I just want it because it's my son's, and
Well-
I bought 3 of his guitars for him.
None of these guitars were purchased by her. They're very expensive guitars. My brother purchased
I can't
every one
order
of
her to
these
do
guitars.
anything. I'm just asking her whether she would give you one of the guitars. And she said no. The next thing we have here is a vehicle. Now, tell me about the vehicle.
So Josh didn't have a lot. He was a 4th-year medical student. He has a truck, a Toyota, a 2019 Toyota Tacoma, that he still owes about $14,000 on. I have that here, $13,841.76 on. And at the time, his truck was at the boat launch where they found him. So when I met with the sheriffs, they gave me possession of the keys. They found his keys on his body, and they gave me his keys. So we brought the truck up to where we live in Northern California, took the truck up there, and it's been kept in storage until this is all sorted out. I personally wanted to keep the truck. I have the means to finance the truck in my name. I have the means to make a payment. She does not have the means to make a payment. She doesn't have a job. She doesn't have a driver's license. She can't provide insurance for it. I mean, she has driving.
That's not particularly relevant. There's $14,000 left on it. Are you employed?
I was until
Just to
this
say,
started.
the answer is either yes or no. Are you employed?
No.
All right, how are you going to pay the note on a $14,000 truck?
I plan on returning to work. This incident has taken my job, believe it or not.
Actually, I don't believe it.
Your Honor, I work
Just
3
shh,
jobs.
Just a second. Actually, I don't believe it.
Okay.
So the answer is, if you can't afford to make the payments on this truck, and the only thing that's going to happen is it's going to be repossessed by the bank. Have you been making payments on the truck?
I have not made a payment.
Who is the finance company?
Credit union.
Where is the truck currently stored? Give me the address.
I don't have an exact address.
And later today,
You don't understand something, sir. Even though she was high on drugs and passed out in her car and you were not at fault, it's not windfall day. That's ridiculous. And I'm not stupid.
Carol Crane claims her daughter, Jessica Crane, is wrongfully keeping her son's property and money from his GoFundMe fundraiser.
I want to see the paperwork on the loan. Okay. Sarah, when we finish with this case, call credit union, advise them who has the truck, let them go repossess the truck. We're finished here. Your case is dismissed.
This court is adjourned.
I had an addiction problem, and she's just angry. She's angry at me, and I've tried to make amends. I've tried to get this better, and she won't have it. My daughter got away with taking absolutely everything, and she wasn't entitled to it.
I think that if there's any lesson to be taken away, aside from the fact that you're not supposed to fight, when you lose somebody so young and so vital, the one innocent party is the credit union who loaned him the money to buy the truck. She's been hiding the truck now for 5 months, hasn't made a payment on it. The right thing to do is for her to turn that truck into the credit union, because I can't control that, except that I can advise the credit union where she is, who she is, that she has possession of the truck, and they should go and repossess it. Anyway, it's all very sad. Before you donate money to a GoFundMe page, make sure you know where the money is going. I think that's the takeaway from this.
Her employer, Sarah Adams, for lost wages and pain and suffering from a dog bite.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2177, Bazine versus Adams.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Bazine, you had a job as a dental assistant. Is that right?
Yes.
And you went to school for that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Where did you go to school?
Medical Institute?
Did you graduate?
Yes.
I gather you didn't like it.
No.
I say that because you didn't stay in that career path for very long. Just for my own curiosity, I come from a long family of dentists. Tell me why you didn't like being a dental assistant. Had to be a reason.
Cleaning people's teeth and having them fight you and tell you that they don't have cavities when they do.
You didn't like the whole experience.
Yeah, all the explaining you have to do.
Okay, got it. Wasn't for you.
No.
You've got it in your hip pocket should you ever need it again. Right?
Yeah.
You have the degree. In any event, the defendant was a patient of yours. She came in as a patient.
Yes.
And you got to know each other, according to you. And she offered you a job at a place that she manages. You manage a store. What kind of store?
It's an appliance store, so we sell scratch and dent appliances.
When was that?
Oh, geez. This had to have been in May.
May of 2022?
Correct.
Is that when you started working in the store?
I started July 3rd.
That was your start date? And what were your duties?
Sales rep, she taught me how to sell the scratch and dent appliances, how to run the store and help her manage it. I was making more commission, so I did take the job besides the dental office.
So you worked in the dental office too?
No.
You left the
I
dental
left
office?
the dental office so I could pursue more money.
Okay. And you did make more money?
Yes.
There came a time, according to what I read in the complaint, that you, Miss Adams, asked the plaintiff to do an outside job for you.
No, that was not correct. So
Tell me how it happened that she ended up at your house.
what happened was I was going to take my lunch to take my kids who were at home lunch because they were on school break. She offered to go.
How old are your children?
16, 13, and 10. She offered to go in my place that she wanted a break. She clocked out for her lunch. I gave her money to go, 1, pick up the food, and 2, a little bit of gas money. She then went to my house.
Just a minute, we're not there yet. She clocked out for her lunch break.
I was clocking out of work.
Shh. And you're the store manager?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long do you get for a lunch break?
An hour.
That's an hour during the day. That's yours.
Correct.
Now, from the store where she was, where she clocked out, to the place where she was supposed to pick up lunch for your children, how far was that? Because you said you gave her gas money, so it wasn't around the corner.
15 minutes away.
And how far from this place where she got the food is your house?
Right down the road.
5 minutes.
Not even 2.
2 minutes, 17 minutes. And then she's got to get back.
Correct.
So that's almost 40 minutes
Correct.
out of her 1 hour lunch. So she was doing you a favor.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, why don't you just say that? So you made me go through this whole exercise. It was more than half her lunch. It gave her 15 minutes for lunch. She was doing you a favor.
Yes, ma'am.
Did she ask you to do her this favor?
Yes.
Tell me how she asked you to do her this favor.
Wouldn't go through when we were ordering the food. I was already on my way home. It was 2:00 in the afternoon, so I was ready to go. She said, go ahead, here's some money, deliver the food to the children. Thank you for your help.
Did you have to pick up the food?
Yes.
Okay, she
I
gave you
went to
money.
the drive-thru, sat in the drive-thru, ordered the food, drove to her house.
So is what you're telling me that you did not volunteer?
No, I was going home and then canceled, and I said, okay, I'm on my way home anyway.
Oh, so get back, step back. Did you order food
I
to send
did,
to your
and
kids?
it did not go through.
Okay, so you ordered food to get there, and this was lunchtime.
Correct.
And how did you find out that they canceled?
They sent me a notification to my phone.
To your phone?
Correct.
And what time was that?
1:00, 1:15.
Had you already taken your lunch break?
No, ma'am. Most days I do not.
So you're in the store all day?
I am.
Well, then it would seem to me she had to find out that they canceled because you said that they sent the note to you.
We work right next to one another.
I don't know, she wasn't looking over at your phone.
Right.
Right? She wasn't looking over at your phone. If you work right next to each other, Common sense would dictate you said something, oh, whatever. Well, what expletive you used, they canceled my order.
Correct.
Could you take stuff to my kids for lunch?
I was going to do it. She offered.
I want you to tell me exactly what you said. You stay in the store all day. Now you thought about it and you thought about your defense and you did, in fact, according to you. Just remember something, because here's $20. Would you take the food, drop it off for the children? And in addition, voila, you said to her,
please do not go in my house. My dog is aggressive.
Mila Bazin claims her former employer, Sarah Adams, owes for injuries from a dog bite. Sarah is countersuing for harassment and slander.
I want you to tell me exactly what you said. You stay in the store all day.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
But on
and
this
she was ready to leave.
No, so she was leaving for her lunch.
No.
I was going to leave and take the kids' food. Mila stated she wanted to go out of the store. She needed a break. So I told her, okay, if you want to clock out and take your lunch, if you will do this for me, I will give you an extra $20 for gas. She said, okay, no problem. So it was doing me a favor.
That's what I want you to say.
Yes.
She was doing me a favor because I wanted to get my 16-year-old lunch that she couldn't get for herself.
Correct.
Right. That she couldn't walk around the corner and get for herself, or open the freezer and put it in a toaster. Right?
Right.
Okay. So you had one of your subordinates go to your house and deliver the food. That's the bottom line. You had one of your subordinates, because you were in the store where you stay all the time, you had one of your subordinates, gave her $20, here's a little gas money for you, go pick up the food and bring it to the house. By the way, your 16-year-old doesn't get around?
No, she's not driving it.
She walks.
Correct, but I don't like my children to leave the house.
In the middle of the day, 1 o'clock?
Correct.
Okay.
Not in this world that we live in.
Okie dokie. Anyway, here's $20. Thank you. Did you say anything else to her?
No.
Has she ever been to your house before?
Not at that time, no.
Prior to giving her money and say, could you pick up the food and drop it off, she had not been to your house before.
Correct. I did state to her before she left.
Just a second. She had not been to your house before.
Correct.
Now you thought about it and you thought about your defense, and you did, in fact, according to you, just remember something, because here's $20. Would you take the food, drop it off for the children? And in addition, voila, you said to her,
please do not go in my house. My dog is aggressive.
And that's why
I did tell her to call me when she got there. I would call my daughter, have her go out and get the food. And Your Honor, I do have a video of my Ring doorbell of what happened.
I'm going to watch that.
Okay.
Because what happened was there was a lot of food, according to what I've read. It needed
3 children.
It needed 2 trips. Daughter took in some, she took the other, and she was bitten by your pit bull.
Correct, but I told her, do not go in my house.
And she was bitten by your pit bull.
Yes, in my home.
She wasn't trespassing in your house, madam. She wasn't burglarizing your house. She was bitten by your pit bull. That's what the case is about.
She was told not to go into my house.
If I believe you.
I have evidence.
I'm going to look at it.
Okay.
If I believe you, whether I believe you or not, she was bitten in your house by your dog. How old is your pit bull?
7 years old.
Where did you get her?
From the pound.
So you went to get food. You took your car and you went to get food. And you picked up how many bags of food for the 3 children?
There's at least, I think, 2 bags, or 1 big bag, and then 2 drinks. 3 drinks in total. I had to carry 1 drink back in behind April. I should have waited in the car. But
Now, why should you have waited in the car?
because
Why?
now that I've bitten, I say that.
Well, what would have made you think that you should be waiting in the car?
No reason.
Did Miss Adams say to you when you left,
No, Your Honor.
text me when you get there, my daughter will come out?
Yes, to make it easier for me, but not because she told me she had a killer dog.
Did she tell you she had any dog?
No, I knew of one little dog, her little Mookie, her baby Chihuahua dog.
Your Honor, I bring a dog with me to work every day.
That you just got while I was working there.
Just a second. Don't interrupt. She said she knew of one little dog, a Pekingese. That's all you knew about.
I knew of her Chihuahua at the time. The Pekingese came later. She inherited her dad's dog, but all I knew of was her little Mookie Chihuahua. I also have a Chihuahua. I thought we both had Chihuahuas. I would not go to anyone's house if they had a killer pit bull. Pit bulls, period.
Okay, you picked up the food, you got to the house, what did you do?
April came out to the car, grabbed what she could. I had the remainder drink. I got up and followed Miss April inside the house. Once we got to the door...
Is April the 16-year-old?
Yes.
That's you?
Mm-hmm. Once she stepped inside, I stepped in behind her. She turned around to grab it, and the dog was right there.
Step up.
Bit my leg.
Okay. April, do you have friends?
Yeah.
Do they drive?
No.
None of them?
No.
And do you live in a rural area, or are there stores there?
There's some stores down
What
two
kind?
streets.
Oh, yeah, what kind of stores?
A grocery store.
Yeah. So if you wanted to and you were hungry, you could have gone to the grocery store and gotten something for lunch. Is not an answer.
Yes.
So on that day, let me make sure what day we're talking about here. July 18th. On July 18th, you and your siblings were home for the day?
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me about the conversation you had with your mother about ordering lunch.
My siblings were hungry and wanted something new, so I asked my mother.
You called your mother at work?
Yes, I called my mother at work to ask if she can order some food.
What time did you call your mother?
It was around 1.
And that's all you said to her? And what did your mother say?
She said yeah.
She said yes, but she must have also said, what do they want? I mean, they didn't want to go to the grocery store, so she said, what do you want?
She said, I can order McDonald's, and I said, that's fine.
She said, I can order McDonald's, and?
And I said, that's great, that's okay, thank you for doing that.
Okay. Now, she called you later to tell you that they had canceled the order.
Yes.
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 And what did she say when she said they canceled the order?
She said that Mila was coming over to drop off the food, and she already told her about...
No, don't make things up as we're going. Be very careful when you talk to me.
Yeah.
She said Mila is on her way over with the food.
Yes.
Now, Mila came over, she pulled her car up in front of your house.
Yeah.
And did you see her pull the car up in front of the house?
Yes.
Okay, did you come outside?
Yes.
All right. Came outside. Did she get out of the car? We're going to go step by step. She got out of the car?
No.
She stayed in the car?
Yes.
And you took a bag?
I took all I could, 2 bags and a drink.
Okay, but that wasn't all the food there was?
Yes. I told her I would come back for the rest.
Did she say that to you?
No, Your Honor.
I didn't hear you say to her when she turned around, stay out there. I didn't hear you say that to her. Do you understand? I didn't hear you, and I heard everything. Say that to her. She had one drink that she was going to give you, and she actually leaned over to give it to you. I didn't hear you say anything to her.
Mila Bazin is accusing her former employer, Sarah Adams, of refusing to pay for injuries caused by her pit bull. Sarah claims Mila already agreed to a $300 settlement.
Now, she got out of the car?
No.
She stayed in the car?
Yes.
And you took a bag?
I took all I could, 2 bags and a drink.
Okay, but that wasn't all the food there was?
Yes. I told her I would come back for the rest.
Did she say that to
No,
you?
Your Honor. I was just nice and got out of the car and followed her.
Yeah, you didn't have that much of a discussion. It doesn't make sense that you had that much. So there was a drink left?
Yes.
So she was walking in following you with the one drink?
No.
She didn't follow you into the house with the one drink?
And not until later.
What do you mean not until later? What happened in between the fact that you grabbed the food and 2 drinks, there was a drink left, now she's out of the car.
I didn't realize she was out of the car. I thought she would stay on the car. So I'm walking over to the house to open the door.
Okay. Now, I want you to point to some place in this room where the car was and where your front door was. Make believe I'm the car. Point to some place in this room. If it has to be more, you can say it's twice that distance, twice the distance from the front and the back of the courtroom, or half the distance, or it's the same distance. How far is it from the car to your house?
The car was right here, and our door...
No, I'm the car.
Yeah.
And how far away is front door?
About right here, not that far away.
Where?
Where those?
So maybe 20 feet.
Yes.
Now I'm going to look at your video.
Got it? Give me a towel. I'm so sorry. Give me a towel, hurry.
I didn't hear you say to her when she turned around, stay out there. I didn't hear you say that to her. Do you understand? I didn't hear you, and I heard everything. Say that to her. She had one drink that she was going to give you, and she actually leaned over to give it to you as you were in the door. I didn't hear you say anything to her. Stay outside, don't come near here. That's a long walk. I didn't hear you. Is that because you didn't say it?
No, before the video, when I went to get, she was inside.
Oh, we're going to hear it again. We're going to go right from the beginning. I heard you speak to your brothers, open the door, food's here. I heard that. I didn't hear anything else. I may have missed it. We're going to play it again. You turn around, you saw her walking in after you. Okay. Anyway, Ms. Bazin, as a result of this dog bite, according to you, you had some serious medical issues. It became infected, couldn't work for a period of time. Do you have any of the medical records?
Yes.
I'd like to take a look at them.
I have them, the bill and the records. You want just the records?
Yeah, both.
Color coordinated by paper clips.
Does the job that you had give you health insurance?
So I have access with Arizona, and they pay up a percentage of it, but not everything.
Do you have what is left over that is your
So they wouldn't give me until the end of the year, I guess, but that's what they billed me, and they keep calling me every day saying I have.
Your Honor, I have a text message from Mila saying that she had unlimited health insurance and they can bill her for whatever she wants.
That's
Okay.
I would like to present that for you.
Let's try not to talk to each other.
Also, Mila went to the hospital 4 times, and I have records of all of that and what they did each time per her text messages.
Yeah.
And I have pictures of the bite when it happened if you'd like to see that as well.
She has it. You don't have to prove her case. I'm sure you have pictures.
Yes.
Yes, I'm sure. How long were you on antibiotics?
For at least almost like 2 months off and on. I had to go back multiple times and have it aspirated.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, got infected. Do you rent or own your own home, Miss Adams?
I rent it.
You have renter's insurance?
I do.
Did the renter's insurance that you have, is the company aware of the fact that you had a pit bull?
Yes, and it is extremely hard to find a place to rent with a pit bull.
No, I didn't ask you that. I asked you whether your insurance, your renter's insurance, had a provision that excluded the insurance from a pit bull bite.
I do not recall, no.
What state do you live in?
Arizona.
What's the name of the company?
It's through our insurance on the car. I'm not 100%.
Did you notify them of this dog bite?
No, I did not.
Why not?
Because she even said it was her fault.
It wasn't her fault. It was your fault. You had the dangerous animal.
How is it my fault?
Just a
I
second.
told her not to go in my house.
Don't ask me any questions, madam, and I'm going to tell you something. Based upon that video, there's no indication that you told her, don't go into my house.
I told her at work.
Listen to me. Based upon what I saw, if you knew If you knew that you had a dog that was territorial and she shouldn't go into the house, then you, when you speak to your daughter who is too lazy to go to the grocery store, say to her, I have one of my employees that I'm sending with your food, which is exactly what happened. You would have said to her, make sure that you take the stuff from the car. And she wouldn't have, unless she's an idiot, she wouldn't have, when she saw the plaintiff coming up with the extra drinks, she would have said, do me a favor, just stay out here, put them down on this shelf where I put the other drinks. Don't walk into the house. She said nothing. She walked into the house and, in effect, held the door open so that she could deliver the other 1 or 2 drinks for your children. That's what happened.
Case 2161, Shaheen versus Larry. All parties, please step forward.
Jamal Shaheen is suing his neighbor, Sabrina Larry, for car damage after Sabrina hit his vehicle and a house.
Mr. Shaheen, tell me where you live.
I live in Moorhead, Minnesota.
And on September 8th of this year, you parked your relatively new car that, according to you, you got a week before.
No, Your Honor.
I had just purchased a Sequoia a week before.
No, actually, it's not. It's not the new car. I mean, it's a used car, but I purchased it maybe a year before that, not exactly a week.
Okay. So it's not a new car and you didn't purchase it a week before?
No.
But you parked it in front of your house. Do you have a photograph of the car?
I do.
I'd like to see it. And it is your claim that the defendant, Miss Larry, while under some sort of influence of some sort of substance, was driving her car, had an accident, hit your car, and caused it to move 25 feet, and it was damaged.
Yes.
And the damage to the car was the rear bumper.
Yep.
Not yep. Yes is the answer.
Yes.
Yes is the answer. Okay. Miss Larry, what time did you have your accident?
9 or 10 a.m.
On the 8th?
Yes.
Where were you coming from?
The grocery store.
Where were you going?
Home.
What kind of drugs had you taken?
I was taking Benadryl, prescription medication. That's all I had. That's what I took. And
Can I see the police report? You remember hitting his car?
no.
You remember the police coming to where your car stopped?
No, I don't remember the police coming.
Well, did the police come?
They did, yes.
And you don't remember that?
I don't remember that.
Were you taken to a hospital?
I was.
You have the discharge notes from the hospital?
I do.
I'd like to see it. What kind of narcotics were found inside the vehicle?
It's alleged that it was a...
No, it's not alleged. This is a police report. I'm asking you. What kind of narcotics were found in your car?
They said that they found a round blue pill that had an M30 on it. That's what it stated.
Sarah, do me a favor.
Sure.
Look up under illegal drugs, M30.
So M30s imitate oxycodone obtained from a pharmacy, but when sold on the streets, the pills routinely contain fentanyl.
Look up this name, Percocet. Mm-hmm. You smoke Percocet? How do you smoke Percocet? That's the only thing you remembered. You didn't remember the accident. Patient remembers smoking Percocet pill just prior to allegedly passing out and crashing her vehicle. That's what they say from your doctor.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying. The history is provided by the patient. The history is limited by condition of the patient. History is limited because the patient does not remember the actual automobile accident. Remembers smoking Percocet pill just prior to allegedly passing out and crashing her vehicle. You think the doctor made that up? And they just so happened to have found this blue pill in your console in your car?
That's what they are saying.
Okay. You actually know you could have killed yourself. Yeah. Okay. And you don't remember anything about it because that's what you told them. You don't remember anything about anything after you smoked the little blue pill, which is what they said. So your car was moved. That's the damage to your car.
Yep.
So can I see the estimate for the damage, please?
I think
you gave it to me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Have you had the car fixed?
Just a back tail light that I had to put it on. I was trying to fix it, but don't have any money to do it.
Sarah, look up, please, would you?
I'm looking it up right now.
Oh, great. Thank you. Oh, it's a 21-year-old car. It's got 226,000 miles on it. How much did you pay for it, sir?
I paid 10.
We're not going to spend 7 to fix it.
Well, that's how much it costs.
You find somebody to do it less.
Well, now I am without a car.
You're not without a car, sir. You put on the taillight so that you could drive it. This car is not drivable.
That car was dragged. That back axle, it shakes. I can drive it in
Between $2,000 and $5,000.
Between $2,000 and $5,000. You paid too much for the car, sir. You don't understand something, sir. Even though she was high on drugs and passed out in her car and you were not at fault, it's not windfall day. If you can buy the car for $2,000, buy an old 22-year-old car for $2,000. She's not paying you $7,000 to fix a $2,000 car. That's ridiculous. And I'm not stupid. Do we understand each other? Now, between
$2,500 and $5,000 based off of a 250,000 mile 2002 Toyota.
So you have to find somebody who's going to fix your car for $3,000, sir. That's $1,000 more than you could buy it for. We're done here. Judgment for the plaintiff.
This court is adjourned.
I would remember if I hit a car, and I didn't.
She ran into my car, run into a garage.
I know exactly what I took, and it definitely wasn't narcotics.
That area that I was living in, it's a really bad area. A lot of drugs are going on over there.
I'm very, very lucky. I'm very blessed. Like she said, I could be dead.
Just the audacity of some plaintiffs to come in here with an almost 22-year-old car with 275,000 miles on it. And I looked it up, and I even priced it on the positive end, the private party value, not a trade-in and so forth. $7,000 he was comfortable asking the court for a car that's not even worth $7,000.
Yeah, he'll buy.
For a back panel.
Buy a new one. He was lying when I said, how much did you pay for the car? $10,000. That's ridiculous. And he just bought it, he said, a year ago. In the papers, he said he bought it a week before. So either it was a week or a year.
Zachary Martin is suing his neighbor, Nancy Morrell, for property damage after his car was vandalized.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2151, Martin versus Morrell.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Martin, you and the defendant are neighbors.
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been neighbors?
Moved into the subdivision in 2019.
That's how long you've been there?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know how long the defendant has been there?
I think 2014.
Is that right?
2017, Your Honor.
Oh, okay.
And where do you live in respect to one another? You want to go over there and show me?
I live in this house right here. Or I did. I don't anymore. This house right here. And she lives right here.
You sold your house?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and the defendant
She lives right here.
Where the blue car is?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. This is sort of a circular area, and from the circular area, you pull into your driveway. Is that right? Okay. It is your claim that the defendant keyed your car.
Yes, ma'am.
And when did this happen?
January 22nd, 2022.
The defendant says that she did not key your car. She has a counterclaim. She claims that she was falsely arrested and held overnight in jail.
That is a lie.
But just to
Okay.
That's her claim, that she was falsely arrested, that she spent a night in jail. She had to hire a lawyer, did hire a lawyer after her lawyer requested several adjournments. You were not, at least physically, in the courtroom at the time of the last adjournment, and the case was dismissed. So let's go back to prior to January 22nd. I assume that if you're alleging that the defendant keyed your car, that you have some negative history with each other.
Yes, ma'am.
Starting when?
There are so many. I mean, it started out when we moved in the subdivision. They were nice at the beginning, no issues. And then the kids started having, her granddaughter lives with her.
Okay, how old is your granddaughter?
She's 9 now. She was 8.
Okay.
They started out having some issues, as kids do. I mean, you know, that happens.
You have a child of a similar age?
Yes, ma'am. She's 11 now. She was 9 or 10 when we lived there.
And the two children had an issue?
I mean, you know, kids argue.
No, I understand that. I'm not going into who was right and who was wrong in the kids' argument. I don't really care. But when did that argument between the two children spill over to the neighbors?
Well, I guess the final straw was Labor Day weekend of 21, the Sunday before the Labor Day. We came home late. It was about 7 o'clock. We were working, and we told Jillian we were going home for a little bit, and she said, I want to swim in the pool. So, all right.
Jillian is your 10-year-old?
Yes. And, of course, she said, well, that's boring, Daddy. I want a friend to swim with me. So I said, okay, one friend. That's it, because your brother's going to watch you, and then we're leaving to go back to work. So she goes next door to Patrick's house, which is the next door neighbor, and she asked Patrick to come over and go swimming. He comes over. At the time, I didn't know this. At the time...
At the time, the defendant's granddaughter was there.
Yes.
At Patrick's house.
Yes.
Got it. So your daughter went over and invited Patrick
Right.
to come and swim.
Right. And not
You had told her that she could have one friend in the
Right.
pool, so Patrick left to come swimming, leaving your granddaughter alone.
well, she had to go home.
She had to go home.
Yes.
She came home.
Just a second. Okay. That's what happened. Okay. You had a grandchild who had hurt feelings. I assume
She
had
actually
hurt.
went over to go swimming. She thought she was invited too.
You had a
And-
child with hurt feelings.
And I went to ask what had happened.
Okay.
That's this big hoopla.
Okay. Now, your grandchild comes home. I assume she was upset. Was she crying?
Yes.
Okay. And that was about what time?
In the evening. I honestly can't remember.
Okay. And when she came home crying, tell me what you did.
Went out and, honey, what's wrong?
What did you do?
Are you okay?
Yes. And she told you what happened.
Said I went over to Jillian's. She invited us swimming. And when I got there, her dad said only one person could swim.
Okay.
So she came home.
Okay. And what did you do next?
That's not what happened.
I talked to her, calmed her down, and I went over and said, hey.
You know, just a second. You walked from your house where the blue car is.
Yep, around the corner.
Did you take your granddaughter with you?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
She's lying.
And what? Shh. If you do that again, I'm
All
just
right.
going to dismiss your case. Do you understand
Yes.
that? And you know, it's
Yeah,
easy.
I got it.
This isn't my case. It's your case.
I know.
So you walked alone to his house. Did you knock at the door? Did you go outside? I want you to tell me exactly what you did.
I don't remember if I went to the front door, if I went to where the pool is, and I do believe Mr. Martin was out there.
Okay, so Mr. Martin was out there, and you said it in that kind of a calm tone?
What happened to my granddaughter? Why is she crying?
Well, she told you why she was crying when she was home. She told you she was crying because she went over there to swim, and Mr. Martin said you can only have one person swim with you.
Which is totally out of character. The children swim together all the time.
You mean at Mr. Martin's pool?
At Mr. Martin's pool, and if they need another adult,
Just a second.
I go.
So they swim all the time in Mr. Martin's pool, so you wanted to know what happened on this occasion when he said only one person can swim.
Yes.
And you said it in just the same kind of conversational tone that I'm talking in, is my question.
I was very calm at the beginning, yes.
Oh, okay. And so you said to him what happened, and what did he say to you?
I don't remember exactly. It was to the effect of his son was going to watch them, and he could only have one child in the pool.
Right, that he wanted his son to have responsibility of only watching one other child other than his sister.
Correct.
Right, well, that sounds reasonable.
And that's fine.
Just a second. So how did it escalate? He said, I only wanted one child in here. My son's going to watch the kids. We have to go back to work. And that should have been it. Why wasn't it?
I don't know.
So I walked back out and looked at the Pathfinder, and that's what I discovered, the scratch across the back. Bright white, so that indicates it's fresh. I told her while she was standing there, you're going to jail, I'm going to call the police.
Okay, now I'd like to see the video.
Zachary Martin claims his neighbor, Nancy Morrell, keyed his car and owes for the repairs. Nancy is countersuing for a false arrest and lawyer fees.
Now let's get to your version of what happened. Okay, so you said only one child. Her granddaughter went home. Her granddaughter, who's a little girl, is upset. Why can't I go swimming too? I got that. And?
This is a lie. Everything she told you was a lie.
Just a second.
She did not come to my house.
Just a second.
She did not come to my house.
If you say again it's a lie, I'm going to dismiss your case. Do you understand that?
Yes.
I asked you what happened.
She did not come to my house.
Okay.
Her daughter came to my house.
Just a second. You mean her granddaughter's mother?
Yes. I never talked to her.
Before my daughter went over, I had gone over.
She didn't.
Oh, no, just a second. Yeah. Now I don't believe you, Miss Morrell. Now I don't believe you, madam. I watched your eyes. I just watched it. Now uncross your arms. So, her daughter came over first.
No,
Yes.
I
Well,
went
she
over.
never-
I don't want to hear you.
She never came over. The daughter came over. She bypassed my front door and went to the side gate where the pool is. She told my son to go get me.
To go get you.
To go get me. I came out and she called me a jerk. You should let her swim in the pool. Blah. I just told my daughter, look, you can have one friend because your brother's watching you. It's not fair for him now to watch 3 kids. Just 2, that's all. I told her, I said, look, I don't know what you're talking about. I said she could have one friend and that's it. She proceeded to call me a jerk. She said some other choice words I'm not going to repeat, in which case I did cuss her out and told her to get off my property and not to come back again, anybody in her family, or I would file trespass charges.
Okay, and that was on the Sunday before Labor Day?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did this incident happen with your car?
January 22nd.
After that incident on Labor Day weekend, did you have any other contact with the defendant?
Yes.
When?
So I think it was right after Jillian's birthday on November the 21st. I think it was like a week, like December the 1st, I think. And this is really sick, but it got to the situation where she would watch my kid. And every time my kid would go to Aubrey's house or Patrick's house, she would take toys, she would unpack her stuff. And I told her, I said, look, you can't play with her. So they would wait 10 or 15 minutes till she got unpacked and get all comfortable, having a good time. She would send her granddaughter over there. She had to pack her stuff up and come home. She would come home crying many times. So then it got to the point where Patrick, he would come over to our house. He'd be over to our house all the time. They would get on trampoline, play video games, blah, blah, blah. So I was doing something one day and then the camera went off and I give me a look at my iPad. Here comes Nancy up my driveway. She knocks on the door and she says, can we play? And I said, no, you can't play. Get off of my property. File trespass charges if you come back. That was, the last time I interacted with her. Until she gave it.
Well, it's not my job to be judgmental in a social way, but I have to tell you, I would have handled it a little differently with her. She wasn't the one who behaved badly. I wouldn't visit her daughter's bad behavior on an 8-year-old. There are kids who live right around the corner from each other, and it seems to me that the bad behavior of a parent or a grandparent shouldn't impact on a child. The granddaughter is a nice little girl.
Well, if you say so.
Is she?
Well, she spread rumors about my daughter and said that, she told Aubrey that my daughter stole some of her toys, and that was a lie.
Okay. All right. Well, it sort of started to get nasty. Now let's get back to the keying of the car. So that happened in January. So tell me about the January incident.
Okay. So she got up January 22nd. It's a Saturday. She decided to walk her dog. She's walked her dog.
Go over there. Show me what you saw.
Okay. So she decided to walk her dog, and so she walks up the sidewalk.
Well, you didn't see that.
No, not right here.
No, you didn't see that.
When she gets about right here, which is Patrick's house, the mailbox is right here, you can see in the video. That's when the cameras detect motion. That's when I get the alert. So I see her walking the dog, and she's walked her dog past my house many times, but never gotten that close to my vehicle. So immediately I thought something.
Where was your car?
My car is parked right here.
In the driveway?
Yes, ma'am. So she walks the dogs, and she is right beside the view. You can see in the video, you can see her right hand go up. So I immediately run out of the house. I have a truck parked right here. I looked at my truck. I thought maybe she did something to the truck. I looked at it, didn't see anything. I went back outside and I said, well, wait a minute, let me go back outside and look at the Pathfinder. So I walked back out and looked at the Pathfinder, and that's what I discovered, the scratch across the back. It's bright white, so that indicates it's fresh. I told her while she was standing there, you're going to jail. I'm going to call the police.
Okay, step back. When you said to her, you're going to jail, I'm going to call the police, did she respond?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, now I'd like to see the video.
Okay. You can see as her hand goes up right there.
I'll take a look at it again. Is there any reason that you stopped behind his car? Is there any reason?
Stopped to sniff, I stopped with him.
You see her right hand right there.
I'm moving my arm as I walk.
Yes, and that's where the scratch is.
Okay, can I take a look at the photographs of the scratch, please? Okay, so based upon what you saw, you called the police. And based upon that, the police came, interviewed you, and viewed this tape.
Actually, I had contacted the police after he had yelled at me. He's a little incorrect. Could I show you where?
Sure.
I did walk my dog around here. His cars impede the sidewalk, so I moved. And I had completed my whole route over to about here, and he did indeed come out and yell at me. I caught a few words of it, said I'm walking my dog, waved my arms, and continued on. Mm-hmm. That's not the first time he has yelled at me as I've been walking, and I went home and I filed an incident report, and I do have that.
Just a second.
The second time I've been walking and he's come out and yelled at me, it's very unnerving.
That's a lie.
We're very far.
Sorry.
It's going to cost you getting your car fixed. It's something you don't understand.
I haven't.
Something you don't understand. I'm allowing both of you to tell me your sides of the story. You can't say that's a lie. Do you understand?
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
not cutting you off. I let you tell me your story, sir. I let you tell me what happened, and I want to give the defendant the same opportunity. You can't interrupt her. Now you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? I will tell you what I don't understand, Miss Morell. You see, if I had got into a kerfuffle with him, which you had, because he said you and your granddaughter, which I actually think was socially wrong with regard to your granddaughter, but with regard to you, he doesn't want you there, right? I wouldn't walk up a cul-de-sac to go past his house. If it were me, I see plenty of space where you can walk. You can cross the street from your house and walk in the street the other way. And then when you come back, you can walk the other way. You don't have to go inside that cul-de-sac to walk anywhere near his house. That's looking for trouble.
Can I just say something?
About what?
The trend that another gentleman, he tried to accuse of trashing his car.
Are you her husband?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm going to let you stand up now, and you're going to show me where he accused somebody else of keying his car in the back in January. Show me.
Zachary Martin is accusing his neighbor, Nancy Morell, of keying his car. Nancy is countersuing for a false arrest and lawyer fees.
So you have a counterclaim, and your counterclaim is for false arrest. He didn't arrest you. The police arrested you. And the police arrested you based upon what they believed, after looking at that video, was probable cause that a crime was committed and probable cause to believe you participated in the commission of that crime, which is vandalism. He didn't make a citizen's arrest. The police made an arrest. And not only did they make an arrest, but they were serious enough to have you get a lawyer. Your counsel went in. I assume your new counsel asked for an adjournment. I assume your new counsel, you were there.
I believe so. I was not there, ma'am. I waited out in the hall, and my lawyer represented me.
Fine. So I assume that you knew that your lawyer was going to ask for an adjournment. The lawyer didn't prepare you for trial, did he?
No.
No.
Your Honor.
So he was... I'm not listening to you.
As a witness, can I just say something?
About what?
The trend that another gentleman, he tried to accuse of trashing his car. We have evidence of that.
Just a second. That I'll listen to in a minute.
Okay.
The second time your case was on, did you go into court or did you wait outside?
I waited outside.
Then if you waited outside, you knew again your lawyer was going to ask for an adjournment. The first time the case was on, did you attend the court hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you inside the court?
Yes, ma'am.
She was not there.
She was outside. Yes, ma'am.
The second time when the case was adjourned, were you in court?
Yes, ma'am.
Was she there?
Yes, ma'am.
Outside or inside?
She was outside.
Did her lawyer ask for an adjournment?
Continuance.
A continuance?
Yes, ma'am.
Same thing?
Yes, ma'am.
Did it happen more than twice?
Yes.
On the third time you went to court, did you go to court?
Yes, ma'am.
Was she in court?
Yes, ma'am.
Inside or outside?
She was outside, and what happened, I had sold the house, and we moved an hour away.
Just a second. You were there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, I'm going to let you stand up now, and you're going to show me where he accused somebody else of keying his car in the back in January. Show me. No. Well, this says that on January 18th, which was 4 days before this incident, you reported another vandalism to a Nissan Titan.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that the car that you saw her key or believe she keyed?
No, ma'am, that's a different vehicle.
That's what I thought. That's a different vehicle. That has nothing to do with this car.
Well, the gentleman that he accused of, he didn't even have arrested or didn't want to press charges.
Just a second. Okay, so now I'm going to let you stand up, and I'm going to give you my end of the riot act. Because if this is what you're deluding yourself with, I'm going to tell you, he didn't have video of anybody on the 18th around his car. In your wife's case, sir, he had prior experience with her. She had no business walking right in front of the house when there are plenty of other places to walk. If they are not on great terms, he had every right to call the police, show them the video, and they had every right to arrest her. Do you understand that?
I understand that, but
Good.
that doesn't
This has
prove
nothing.
that she scratched the vehicle. That doesn't prove that.
Just a second. That's what a trial is for, sir. That was up to a jury. What your wife is suing him for is for false arrest. He didn't arrest her. The police arrested her. Now sit. May I see the invoice? Have you had the car fixed?
Yes, ma'am. I have an estimate, and I also have the police report. where
I'd like to
read
see
her own
both.
words.
I'd like to see both. So the police officer indicated that after you were told about what the officer saw on the video, you've decided to make no more statements about the incident, and you were placed under arrest for malicious damage. The officer also reported that the scratch on the back of the car was fresh because there were fresh paint chips on the street that were red paint chips. There's a red car that came off that car, which demonstrates to the eyes of any layperson that since there's traffic back and forth there, if there are fresh scratches and fresh paint, it means it just happened. So your counterclaim for false arrest and anything addended thereto is dismissed.
I did not do it, Your Honor.
Right, well, okay, maybe the case was dismissed. That doesn't mean you're entitled to money from him. Police had probable cause to believe that a crime was committed and probable cause to believe that you committed that crime. The rest of it is up to a jury. So you have a beef with the police department, not with him. They had an absolute right to arrest you. I'm not giving you $2,500 for this scratch, sir. Get it out of your mind. Do you understand?
Why not?
It's not a $2,500 scratch.
I mean, that's an estimate from a
$500. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
Well, she was incorrect because I did not do it.
You know, we took an oath when we went inside to tell the truth, and she lied repeatedly, and she got mad at me when I said that's a lie, but it was a lie.
That he saw me walking by and looked at the car and said, oh.
The next day I called the police to see what happened, and they informed me they arrested her.
I thought they were there because I had called about him harassing me, and then all of a sudden they just said, you scratched his car. And I said, no, I didn't.
I think she should have stayed in jail longer.
They placed me in custody.
The lady does nothing but lie. She's a liar.
It was horrible.
I actually thought his behavior when the defendant brought her granddaughter over subsequently and said, can't she play? Because evidently there are 2 or 3 kids who live close by and they always played together. All of a sudden, the granddaughter is excluded from that play. There's a certain amount, as a parent, he should have had some sense of that and said, well, of course they can play, but your daughter owes me an apology. You know, if you're behaving like an adult, your daughter owes me an apology. I tried to do a responsible thing. I didn't want to let my son watch more than one stranger child in a pool, which is absolutely smart because, God forbid, something happened to one of those children, they would certainly turn around and sue him.
Yeah.
So he did the responsible thing. Was it hurtful to the other child? Yes. According to him, his daughter was playing at Patrick's house. Mm-hmm. She came over and said, you can't come, because they're little children. Mm-hmm. They don't understand. You can't come. Only one person can come. But you're a grown-up. So understand how that could be hurtful to an 8-year-old. Anyway, I think that they both behaved badly, and he's very smart to have moved out of that.
Out of the cul-de-sac, out of the neighborhood.
Yeah, could you understand why she would walk her dog there?
Yeah, I agreed with you that if you've already had even just a hint of distaste with any of your neighbors, I just walk on the other side of the street, just avoid it. And this seems like a perfectly avoidable house in the cul-de-sac.
You actually have to
go into his loop in order to make the loop. So I don't know. I think both sides questionable, but I'm glad that he got something that you were willing to give him for his car.
Yeah, get your car fixed reasonably, and the police absolutely had a right to arrest her.
Yeah.
There was a complaint. They looked at the complaint. They saw the damage. They saw it was fresh. They saw her right right there on the video. They had a history of bad feelings between them. They had an absolute right to arrest her.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Michael Attar is suing his former clients, Mary and Michael Rhodes, for unpaid demolition work.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2115, Attar versus Rose.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Attar, you were hired to do some, according to you, demolition work and other work at a property owned by Mr. and Mrs. Rhodes. You gave them an estimate for that work. I think the estimate was $11,500. Is that correct?
Correct.
And it was outlined what work you were supposed to do. You started that work, and according to you, at some point there was disagreement with either or both of the Rhodeses, and they stopped payment on a check that they gave you.
Correct.
And the check that they gave you was for $4,200. And then you stopped work for them.
Yes, ma'am, we're finished.
So you're suing them for the canceled check and for other unpaid work that you did that you didn't get paid for.
Correct.
Mr. and Mrs. Rhodes say that they were not satisfied with the quality of your work. It cost them $9,000 to both replace things that were stolen from their property by either you or members of your team, something which I don't think that you question that somebody from your team, not you, somebody from your team may have taken metal property of theirs that they didn't own. So let's go back. Mr. and Mrs. Rhodes, is this a new property to you, or is this a property that you owned for a while?
It's a new property to us.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So is it a private house?
Yes, and we were remodeling it.
Okay, when did you purchase it?
We purchased in January of 2021.
Is it a single-family residence?
Yes.
How much did you pay for it?
$769,000.
Describe the property to me.
It's in northern Altaloma or Rancho Cucamonga. It's an acre property, has 2 levels on it, and a single-family ranch-style home on it right now. And what we asked him to do was demolition the lower half.
Do you have a photograph?
I do.
I'd like to look at the photograph of what you wanted him to do.
That's what the lower half looked like before.
So this whole portion you wanted him
correct
to demolish and remove the debris.
And grade flat.
Is that correct, sir?
I can't see from here, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I'm going to show it to you. To demolish it, flatten it, fill it in.
Remove all the debris.
Yes.
Okay. And did you have a written contract?
We did not.
Well, that's always a mistake.
Always.
How did you find him?
I believe I got his business card. It was on my personal car, I think at Home Depot. We had bought this house and we tried to find somebody to do the work, but...
Mr. Rhodes, let me tell you that the best way to find somebody is not somebody who leaves a card on your car at Home Depot or any place else.
Yeah.
It was a difficult time to find contractors with COVID and everything at that time.
And at the time, I'm also going to add, because I read in the paper somewhere at the time, he didn't have a license.
He did not.
And you knew he didn't have a license.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I told him, Your Honor. I do not
Just a
have
second.
license.
They didn't say no, we didn't know. They said we knew. So you got somebody who had no license to do what you wanted him to do, and you got his number from a card that he left on your windshield. Did you ask for references? That's either a yes or a no.
No, and I'm not really sure actually 100% on where I found that card. I think it
doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I mean,
but he did tell us he was in the process of getting his license. That it was coming.
Yeah. I know.
What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. You're two intelligent people. Okay. So you hired an unlicensed contractor to do work on your house and agreed to pay him $11,500. Now, Mr. Attar, the $11,000 included labor and materials. Is that correct?
There was no material. It was labor and bins.
That's material, labor and bins to remove
Yes, ma'am.
all the equipment that you needed
Yes, ma'am.
to complete the job.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct?
Of before, too. Of what I was supposed to do, and I took a picture.
Well, no, I have that.
You have the wrong picture, Your Honor.
Okay, I'd like to see the picture that he has.
I was supposed to do from the post all the way to the other post, remove everything, and the pool and the deck.
Mr. Attar, the $11,500 was an all-inclusive figure.
Yes, Your Honor.
One of the things that became an issue is a bobcat.
Correct.
From what I'm piecing together, you hired somebody in a Bobcat to do a Bobcat. That's a big piece of equipment that knocks down something.
I rented a Bobcat.
And somebody who operated it.
My worker.
You didn't know how to operate the Bobcat.
I know how to operate Bobcat, but I was controlling the demolition site, ma'am. I was like many things were going at the same time. I had to control everything.
Mr. Rattar, something happened with the Bobcat, the original one that you got. What happened with it?
It broke down on us.
No, it didn't break down on them. It broke down on you.
On us.
It broke down on you.
Yes.
So what did you do?
I took it back, and next day supposed to deliver me another one, but they sent me a drunk driver and another broken down Bobcat. I returned it. At that moment, I asked Mrs. Rhodes, can you please go down Home Depot, which is like a mile away, so we can stop wasting time, rent a Bobcat.
Just a second. Why should she rent a Bobcat, sir? Your $11,500 included the Bobcat.
But I paid for it.
No. If you're going to pay for it, that's one thing. Then what are you sending her for? If your $11,500 figure included all materials, then she doesn't have to rent a Bobcat. If you rented one that didn't work, rent one that works. How much of a down payment did they give you?
Presume was $4,000.
When did you start the job?
I started the job on 15th of January.
When did you leave the job?
I was asked to leave on the 2nd of February.
On February 2nd?
Yes, ma'am. Not to go back, I will call the cops on you.
Between January 15th and February 2nd, other than the $4,000, did they give you any other money?
Yes, Your Honor, they did.
How much money did they give you?
They gave me up to $7,000.
So they gave you an additional $3,000?
Yes, and $1,000 check.
Your Honor, that was within the first week we gave him.
It doesn't matter to me. My question was between January 15th and February 2nd, they gave you $7,000.
Correct.
Explain the other $4,200, which is the check that they stopped payment on.
Okay. I'll happily explain to you. The Bobcat she rented for me on her behalf, it cost $329 to rent per day. And I rented for one day only, but they charged me $800.
No, that's not correct.
Just a second. I didn't ask you anything.
Okay.
Do you have a photograph of what the property looked like when you left?
Yes, ma'am. The last picture I took before I was kicked out of the property.
You're talking, I'm not listening to you.
Michael Attar claims his former clients, Mary and Michael Rhodes, owe for unpaid demolition work. Mary and Michael are countersuing for lost wages, equipment rental, and missing property.
Now, they paid you $7,000.
Correct.
They wrote you another check.
The final check was supposed to be $5,000, but they only gave me $4,200 because they minus $800 for the Bobcat rental.
Just a second. First of all, the total bill wasn't 7 and 5. 7 and 5, even my rudimentary math, is $12,000. That would be $500 more than your agreed contract, which was for 11.5.
They gave me $6,500 because they gave me small checks. They gave me the first initial
Just
check,
a second.
They gave me smaller ones.
Sir, you're the businessman, whether you have a license or not. I asked you before how much money did they give you between January 15th and February 2nd, and you said $7,000.
I didn't write it down, Your Honor.
Well, you're here asking for money, and you have to write it down. You have to have some.
I've done performed already.
No, sir.
And I just did the job, Your Honor. I did 7, 8 other side jobs for them.
I don't care whether you did 7 or 8 side jobs. Your original agreement with them was for $11,500, including all material. Now, what you said to me was that they gave you $7,000, and you said they're supposed to give me another $5,000. Well, another $5,000 is more than your quote.
Ma'am, the balance was $5,000.
How?
The initial check, then they gave me $1,000.
How much money did you give them altogether that he cashed?
$7,000.
Then they owed you $4,500, pursuant to your agreement.
We agreed to $11,000, not $11,500.
$11,500, Your Honor.
Anybody have any proof of what the agreed amount was?
We had a verbal contract with me, Mr. Rhodes.
Fine. I will indicate that it's $11,500. If they gave you $7,000, they don't owe you $5,000. They owed you the difference between $11,500 and the $7,000 that they gave you. Now, one of the things that you disputed, Mr. Attar, was this Bobcat. Who paid for the Bobcat? Show me.
They minus it from the final price.
Just a second. Was that an argument?
The argument about is, Your Honor, is they rented for 1 day, but they charged me 2 days, $800. There's no Bobcat rental for $800 for 2 days. I got.
Do you have the bill for the Bobcat?
I do, yes. And it was for 2 days.
Go over a certain time.
Because it was returned late. So they charged a second day. But in his text messages, he did request it for 2 days.
Is that the total price?
Yes, and I did not subtract it from his payment.
Total contract was $652.74?
Yes.
Do you have a photograph of what the property looked like when you left?
Yes, ma'am. The last picture I took before I was kicked out of the property.
You're talking, I'm not listening to you. Just show me a picture.
Yes, ma'am. This is not a picture.
Mr. Attar, you're the businessman.
Yes, ma'am.
This is your company.
Yes, ma'am.
Company requires A, a license before you operate, which you didn't have.
If you do.
B, it requires a written contract. You're the businessman. They're people who bought a house who got your number off a windshield someplace. You're the businessman, and you want the parameters. You want them fixed. So I don't know if it's 11,000 or 11,500. Do you understand?
Very much, Your Honor.
Right. Well, that's your mistake. You look as if you've probably been in business for a long time.
14 years.
And is what you're telling me you don't have written contracts?
All my contracts are verbal.
Then how many times have you been in court, sir?
Never.
Never.
I never had a stop payment check. Never pays me on time, Your Honor.
It's a problem. Sir, when you finished, the debris wasn't all removed.
That wood, they kept telling me, don't touch it. Their neighbor, cousin, whoever's going to come pick it up. That was just cut cord wood.
No. There's brick. There's wood, there's cement.
We cleaned all that. I personally cleaned all that.
Just a second. What I asked you, Mr. Attar, was show me a picture of the property when you left. This is the picture that you showed me.
That was the last, before I had more work, I came in and did more. I wasn't taking pictures. I wasn't expecting somebody to stop payment on a check, Your Honor. I was not expecting that.
I have pictures of what it looked like when he left.
What about after?
Well, what are you showing me here? This brick that's here?
They piled it there and then left it there.
Well, that's probably a good one.
No, it was supposed to be removed.
So this is the back.
That's the picture of the sagging patio because he removed part of the supports that were holding up the patio that he wasn't supposed to. So it's now sagging.
Now, this is the picture that you gave me when you told me this is what you wanted, leveled, cleared, and made flat.
Right.
Now, I want to see your picture of what this looked like when he left.
You have it. It's in some of those photos.
Flat leveled.
You're talking about this?
Yeah.
That's part of it. The close-ups, that's part of it.
Well, it looks like most of the stuff is done. It looked like a lot of cleanup left.
No, ma'am. We've done all the cleanup.
Well, I haven't seen that, so then what you're supposed to do is take a photograph.
It was also buried underneath. These are the photos of when we did it ourselves and really leveled it out. And as we were doing that, we found so much buried underneath that should have been removed, but his Bobcat person buried it all.
Your Honor.
Buried
all the debris, all the concrete brick.
Okay, let me see the bill from the...
No, we did it ourselves. We rented equipment and did it ourselves on his vacation.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay, $4,500 is so far what's owed on this contract. Now, your counterclaim is money owed for lost work, equipment rentals, labor and missing damages to property. What money owed for lost work?
During the second week that he was working, he called and said that his crew had left. This was the second day of supposed to be use of the Bobcat that I rented.
Okay, if you interrupt me again, I'm just dismissing your case. Do you understand?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. So just explain lost work. Who's lost work?
His.
Oh, forget it.
Well, he called and said his crew left.
Forget it.
He can't finish the job.
You weren't living there.
Not yet, no.
You weren't living there. Okay. He wants to go. I'm not interested in his lost wages for taking care of his house. So far, you owe the man the balance on his contract unless you had somebody else do it, which is absolutely fine. And I would look at that removal of debris, what it costs you, and you're absolutely entitled to that. Deducted from what you owe him, which is $4,500.
But he didn't finish the job.
Just a second. You tell me, how am I supposed to gauge how much of the job he didn't finish? Did he not complete $2,500 worth, $3,500 worth, $1,500 worth?
I think the $7,000 we paid him was overpaid. He didn't have to end up removing an entire pool. He only had to remove...
That's your problem. Just a second. I read that. You said it's not a big pool. It wasn't 8 feet. It was only 24 inches. He gave you a price to level everything. Nothing delineated, nothing in a written contract. The pool turns out to be 2 feet instead of 6 feet or 2 feet instead of 8 feet. Well, if he was the contractor and he came out and he looked at the pool, he said, oh, this is an 8-foot pool, and it turned out it's a 12-foot pool, he'd be stuck with 11.5, just like you're stuck with 11.5 because it was shallower. Now, you owe him $4,500 unless you want to produce for me bills that you have for rental equipment, etc., and I will absolutely deduct that from the $4,500. Just give me the bills and the amount of equipment. Don't say nothing, Mr. Retard. Mr. Rhodes, did you rent a Bobcat?
The one that I cleaned up the yard with?
Yes.
I rented a piece of equipment.
Jump up!
Yes.
And you know how they pick up metal?
No, I don't know that, sir. I'm a television personality. I don't know about people driving down the street to pick up metal. I've nenever had somebody drive down the street and say, I'm looking for metal. They don't even come down my street and ask if I want sharp knives.
Michael Attar has accused his former clients, Mary and Michael Rhodes, of refusing to pay for demolition work. Mary and Michael claim he never finished the job and stole their property.
Now, what did you rent?
A skip loader.
That's different from a Bobcat.
Yes, that's correct.
Smaller?
I would say bigger.
Bigger. And do you remember how much it cost you? Did you rent it from Home Depot?
No. It's from a local rental yard. I think it was
all the equipment we rented
in Ontario.
$1,300.
Yeah.
Find it.
Yeah.
Find the bill.
They didn't print it, so now I gotta.
How many days did you have it, Mr. Rhodes?
4.
I'm dismissing your counterclaim, Mrs. Rhodes. Do you want to know why? Because I asked him a specific question, and you answered. Do you understand? Do you understand? That part of your counterclaim, because you don't have it, you can't find it. So far you owe him $4,500. Not $8,600, but $4,500. Now, do you have any proof that Mr. Attar or someone from his team stole copper piping or whatever piping that you claim was missing? Do you have any proof that either Mr. Attar or anyone under his authority took property from you?
Yes. We have text messages back and forth.
Okay, I'll read them. Okay, so what you're referring to with regard to the stolen property is you send a picture and there's a little piece of pipe there, one piece of pipe, and you say, Mike, did you or your guys happen to grind off 2 metal poles and concrete blocks? The kids use those for volleyball nets. And he says, oh my God, no, sir, but I'm guessing the person whom I gave my metal to, no problem, Michael, please give, and I don't see the rest of this message.
Yes, so that was the beginning of things we noticed that were missing.
Oh, I don't care. If this is what you're talking about?
Yes, he's saying he let a metal person onto our yard, and they went and took everything that was metal.
Okay. Okay, now, Mr. Attar.
Yes, Your Honor.
I want you to tell me about the missing metal on this property.
She was standing right there, and there was a metal guy that drives down the street. And you know how they pick up metal?
No, I don't know that, sir. I'm a television personality. I don't know about people driving down the street to pick up metal. I've never had somebody drive down the street and say, I'm looking for metal. They don't even come down my street and ask if I want sharp knives.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Very much, Your Honor.
Do you understand?
Very much, Your Honor.
Okay. Who is this person?
This person was picking up metal, and I asked for permission. I said, ma'am, can you come down the property?
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Was this person picking up metal for nothing?
Yes,
Just a second. Yeah. You're a business guy. Mr. Attar, somebody drives down the street and says, you know, I see you're doing construction. Is there any metal around here that you want me to dispose of?
Yes, ma'am. They do a lot.
Yes. And then they look around. This is what you tell them. They look around and they take the metal for nothing.
Yes, ma'am. This would be cheaper for me Set her loaded on my trailer and take it to the recycling metal yard.
So what metal did they take, sir? I assume
Everything
what?
that I gave him.
What
was
did you
right
give
there.
them?
Nobody went up there and cut no poles, ma'am.
Well, they sent you a picture of a pole, sir, and in response to the picture of the pole, you said, oh my God, I'm guessing the person whom I gave my metal to.
I'm guessing.
No problem. And then you say later, tell me what it is, and I will either look high and low to get it back or replace it. That's what you say.
Yes, I offered to replace it.
That's what you say.
I offered to replace it.
Now, next question. I need an itemized list and what the value was of the metal taken.
There's a list of everything. They're listed in there.
What is this?
Those are all the damages, but the metal is listed in there separately of the items that are missing.
No, it isn't. This is a whole bunch of other things that you prepared for this case.
It's in there underneath. There's the horse feeder. Part of the corral was cut off.
This is something that you wrote yourself.
Yes, you said an itemized list.
If they took 6 feet of pipe, get me a bill from Home Depot for the replacement of that pipe.
Oh, I have
all the bills for the replacement of metal, not what you prepared for this litigation.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Itemized list.
Did you take down a horse corral?
No, Your Honor, I did not take no horse corral. I have nothing
Horse
to do.
corral, is that metal or is it?
It's made out of galvanized metal, yeah. They cut pieces off of that were sticking up to take to recycle, I guess.
Just a second. Was there a 4-sided horse corral?
Yes.
That looked like this?
Yes.
That they took down?
They cut pieces that were sticking up above the horse corral, attached to the horse corral.
You're being petty. You're being petty. $306 Ram's price, galvanized wall-mounted horse feeder. Did you take a horse feeder?
No, Your Honor, I got no...
Yo, Mr. Ratoff, $4,500. Judgment for the plaintiff. Counterclaims dismissed. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
Well, his equipment broke, and he wanted us to rent the equipment for him.
Equipment died because things break down.
And then the next day, he calls and says he can't finish it.
At that moment, I didn't have a credit card to my name. And that's the honest truth.
So we pretty much figured that was job abandonment at that point.
I'm going to have a written contract in the future. Don't hire
Always
him.
hire a professional.
I could not believe that your first question to him when he said that he'd been working as a contractor for 14 years was, and you've been working all 14 of those years unlicensed?
Oh, yeah.
I was waiting for the question. I was waiting at the edge of my seat, and it never came.
Different minds. Yeah. Should have slipped me a note.
I should have.
You should have slipped me a note. No, that actually didn't cross my mind, but that's a good question.
Yeah. Oral contracts and no license.
No license, but there's no question. He did the work.
Yeah. No, I agree.
He did the work, and they were really dickering over who was going to absorb the cost of this second Bobcat that they had to get, which was really ridiculous. If they had had another contractor who came and completed the job,
you would have awarded that.
I would have deducted it from the $4,500 that they owed him. But absent that, the fact that he rented some sort of piece of equipment and came and cleaned up the property was not important to me. And the rest of their case was nonsense. Next time, they won't employ somebody for $11,000 from a card from your windshield.
At Home Depot.
From
Anywhere.
wherever, and not say, okay, listen, maybe I give him a shot. Give me 3 of your last references to call.
It's a good lesson to people out there,
I don't understand that.
Ellen Henderson is suing her ex-roommate, Tara Williams, for breaking a lease and filing a false restraining order.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2023. Henderson versus Williams.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Henderson, you and your kids and Miss Williams and her kids decided to rent a house together.
Yes.
And when was that initially?
We moved in January 21st of 2021.
How large a house was it?
5-bedroom.
And who moved in with you?
Me, my 2 children, Tara, her 3 children, and...
The third roommate?
Yes.
What was your share of the rent?
The share of the rent?
Yours?
$14.95.
And yours?
We paid... Me and her split it and then took cash from...
The third roommate?
Yes, so $14.95 too.
And you lived there for a year. What I gather is sort of towards the end of the year, things were getting a little testy between the two of you, either because of you or because of the kids. You had children, and things weren't working out, so that both of you were not real happy with each other. That be a fair statement?
Yes. It started earlier in 2021.
I'm sure, but at the time that the lease was up, you both weren't really happy with each other. And according to your complaint, she left, you were stuck paying the rent, and she had signed a renewal of the lease, and you want her to pay her portion of the rent until you found a new roommate, which you actually found a new roommate several months later. The defendant says she told you that she was contemplating living with you for another year, that her speculation that you went into her room and took a signed copy of the lease and gave it to the rental agent or whoever it was.
It would have been in the kitchen in my area where my papers were.
Whatever. Yeah. And it was never her intention to sign a second lease. Your lease was up in January of 2022.
Yes.
The defendant was away for a period of time. When was the defendant away? Just prior to January of 2022.
She went to Hawaii for a week.
When?
I think she left on January 8th, give or take a day, I don't remember.
And did you return the signed copies of the lease to the landlord?
No, they were turned in December.
By both of you?
For the lease renewal, all three of us re-signed in December. And I have a copy of that.
What I'm asking you is, were they turned in, because that's very easy to verify, were they all turned in before she went to Hawaii?
Yes.
Okay. I'll see what you have. Well, Ms. Williams, if it's your statement that she took your signed copy of the lease and turned it in without your permission at some point when you were in Hawaii, that's what you're alleging. If this doesn't bear that out, Ms. Williams, I'm going to tell you it doesn't lend itself to the truth of that statement, because this indicates that the two of you and the third roommate signed this on December the 19th. Then you turned it in. Then it was turned in. That was before you went to Hawaii. The landlord signed it on December 20th, which means that if the landlord signed it on December 20th, he signed it before you went to Hawaii, which means she couldn't have stolen your copy of the lease.
Right.
Do you understand?
Yeah, no, I'm not stating I was in Hawaii when she turned it in. I left for Hawaii January 8th through the 18th.
I understand that.
Okay. I was unaware.
When our lease was up for renewal, we weren't getting along, and I was on the fence about spending another year with Ellen. In December, we received a copy of the lease renewal. I felt pressured into signing it, but then we told Ellen we needed more time, just you. I had to leave town. Well, I don't know, you don't have any witness here because you say I had to leave town, so I decided to hold on to the lease until I returned. Where did you go?
I went to Hawaii.
Well, that was in January.
Yes.
Well, but the landlord got a copy of the signed agreement December 20th.
I didn't know it was turned in.
Oh, well,
receive an
I
email.
don't know whether it was turned in or not.
So I emailed Rentcon, and I have messages stating it was received from Ellen.
Okay. I'll see what you have.
Okay.
No. This doesn't say that at all. Lease renewal was signed by all three tenants. Correct. Lease was signed by all three tenants, and it was received before you went to Hawaii on the 20th of December. Okay. Easy. You moved out in February?
January 31st of 22.
When was the first lease up?
The 22nd of January 22.
So you stayed on after the lease was up?
Yes.
Why?
I wasn't completely moved out yet. I
Oh,
was in
that's too
Hawaii.
bad.
I had reached out to Rincon about paying extra to pay the extra few days.
No. Okay. And when did you get a new roommate? Did you keep blowing her off, or did you answer her?
No, I
No, just a second.
I did not.
Did you blow her off, or did you answer? So the answer is you blew her off. You blew her off.
Yes.
About the rent, which she was stuck with.
Right.
Right. Okay, good.
Ellen Henderson claims her ex-roommate, Tara Williams, broke their lease and filed a false restraining order against her. Tara is countersuing for a security deposit, utilities, and damaged property.
Okay. When did you get a new roommate?
She moved in April 18th.
Did she pay January's rent?
Yes.
So you're talking about February and March.
February, March, and then prorated April.
Well, February and March, $14.95, $29.90. Okay, the next part of your case involves filing for a false restraining order. Did you file a restraining order, Miss Williams, against Miss Henderson?
Yes.
I'd like to see what it says. No, don't give me that whole thing. Your application for a restraining order, I'd like to see what your application for... Don't hand them that whole thing. I said I'd like to see what your application for a restraining order said. Okay, so what you say is she sent you 3 letters. You're asking because she sent you 3 letters. They were annoying. I want to know what she was asking for in those letters. Was she asking for rent money? Was she asking for rent?
Yes.
Okay, so she was asking for her money.
Yes.
For your rent money for the months that she didn't have a roommate. Well, that's not harassment, madam.
There's more, but...
What?
There's more. She's telling me that I stole some of her stuff. In the first letter, it says, if you don't pay this in 5 days, we'll take...
Yeah, she's allowed to say that. Okay.
Yeah, which
so
is
she wrote
totally
to you.
fine, but she sent it 2 more times, emailed it, and then showed up at my children's school while I was dropping them off.
Did you keep blowing her off, or did you answer her?
No, I
No,
didn't.
just a second.
I did not.
Did you blow her off, or did you answer? So the answer is you blew her off.
Yes, I was fine with going to court.
You blew her off.
Yes.
About the rent, which she was stuck with.
Right.
Right. Okay, good. $29.90 is what she owes you for rent. Now, part of your counterclaim, forget money for damages, you get security deposit. How much was her security deposit?
We paid equally between me and her.
No, how much did she pay?
It was half of...
How much was your security deposit?
$1,747.50.
1,747. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And where is her security deposit?
In our lease, it states that if you break the lease, the deposit stays with the house. And I have an email from the property management stating that same thing, that she signed a lease saying that if she leaves early, the money stays with the house until everyone moves out.
So the security deposit, if you and your new roommate keep the house safe, you're going to get back.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't allege any damage. Is that correct?
I had to clean up the carpets in her room upstairs. And
Okay, do you have an invoice for that?
No, I did it myself.
Okay. 2990 less 1747?
$1,243.
So far, she owes you $1,243. That's less the security deposit, which you and your hopefully neat roommate will get back.
May I say something about the payments for rent? So it was me and her doing equal rent at $1,795.25. So that's what I paid. Me and her paid that in January, and I paid the entire amount in February, March.
I understand she was no longer paying rent. You're getting the rent, but I'm deducting from that.
My portion is $1,795, and that's what I'm asking her for, because that's what her portion was when she moved out as well.
Just a second. Am I correct that she, at the time you moved in, individually paid as a security deposit $1,747? Is that correct?
Yeah, but I'm talking about the rent payments. It's not $1,495, it's $1,795.
Was your rent each month $1,495 or $1,795?
$1,495.
Can I see it? Anybody have any proof of that?
I printed out the log, but she paid us $300 each in cash. So there's no, she is on the lease, but it does not show she was paying cash.
You mean the third roommate?
Yes.
The third roommate?
Right.
So your amount was $1,495?
Correct.
I got it. Okay,
Up until the end of December.
Okay, I'm finished. Now, the next part of your counterclaim is for utilities. Security deposit you get back. What utilities do you think she owes you?
She did not pay me November, December, January, or February closing for utilities.
Did you pay them?
I paid them.
I'd like to see where you paid them. No, don't give me a whole bunch of papers. I don't want to see a whole bunch of papers that I have to go through. I want to see what utilities there were, when you sent her a statement of what the utilities were.
Yes.
I assume it worked that she paid you a portion of the utilities.
Yes, it was
What
split.
portion of the utilities did you pay?
We split it equally the whole time we were there.
Okay, so whatever utility bills that were paid by her, you were supposed to pay half.
Correct. Which
did you?
I My last payment to her was December 4th for Spectrum Water, Trash, and Gas.
That was 12/4. How much did you pay her?
$364.61.
Okay, just a second. Did she pay you $364 in December?
She did for prior months.
So that was for November. That covered November. If it was paid in December, that covered November.
It would have been more so October. I
can't get involved with that, madam. Don't give him a whole bunch of papers. Don't give him a whole bunch of papers. December and January statement for utilities. You were gone in February.
Yes.
December and January bills for utilities. Did you pay those?
I did not because she left me with all the rent.
I understand that, but now you're getting your rent. Now we're going to settle up on the utilities.
I didn't include it in the lawsuit, but she still owes me for trash. And I have a list of stuff that she took of mine that I did write
I'm not interested in it, Miss Henderson. It didn't work out. You should be very happy. She's gone. You didn't like her.
She overcharged me utilities with her business expenses.
Okay.
Every month we lived there.
Did you come in contact with her on the 25th of May in a pedestrian car incident?
Not that I recall.
About 1 minute to 8 in the morning. Who drives a white minivan?
Me.
Ellen Henderson has accused her ex-roommate, Tara Williams, of breaking their lease. Tara claims she filed the restraining order because Ellen was stalking her.
Miss Henderson, it didn't work out. You should be very happy. She's gone. You didn't like her.
She overcharged me utilities with her business expenses.
Okay.
Every month we lived there.
We have a bill for December and January. If there's anything here that's not December and January, I'm dismissing that part of your claim. And I already have a bill that's dated April of 2022.
Right, that was for January and February water.
That's $390. Billing date 4/14. No.
It was.
No. I want you, because I'm losing my patience slowly. Please read out the bills, the total bills for December and January only. Sarah, get ready.
Can it go till February 1st?
Yes.
Okay.
By the way, while she's looking for that, did you go to her kid's school?
I served her a letter of default and a cease and desist letter in the parking lot of her school, kids' school. Because she didn't pick up a letter from the mailbox. She knew it was coming from me. And I had to go back to the mailbox and get it after a month.
Okay.
And I didn't know where she lived. I didn't know how else to reach her.
Okay. Did you come in contact with her on the 25th of May in a pedestrian car incident?
Not that I recall.
About 1 minute to 8 in the morning. Who drives a white minivan?
Me. What was the date?
May 25th.
Oh, yeah, that was her kid's school. That was her kid's school when I delivered the letter.
Well, that's why she filed for protective order against you. Not unreasonable. It was dismissed after a hearing, or it was just dismissed?
It was dismissed after a hearing.
Yeah. Part of your claim for filing a false restraining order is dismissed. I could actually see why you would get frightened if somebody went to your kid's school to serve you papers. Okay, what are the bills for utilities?
Can I just say something?
Sure.
I had to give her those letters in order to file for small claims.
Okay.
I had tried to mail it, and she didn't go to the post office.
I got it. Could we have the utilities? Which utility and what is it? You should have all this together for me and not make it difficult. Okay. This is why you were coming. Don't read out the numbers, what the utility is for what month and the amount.
So water, $257.94. Water for February was $132.09. For 12/03 bill date for electricity was $167.
What date?
12/23.
That's December.
Yes,
but that was for November.
I thought we were doing December, January.
For December, but you wouldn't have gotten December's bill in December. You would have gotten it in January.
It was prepared 12/03.
Right, but that's dealt with November. It was prepared 12/03. They're not prorated. Come on, let's go.
Okay, 2/04. This was prepared for electricity 74.72.
Okay.
This one was for the date that I ended of 128 to 201. It was 1278 for Edison, electricity.
Let's move on.
And then this is gas for 1229 to 127. It was 3704. And then the ending charges was 572.
Got it? $5.72. I can't believe it. Okay, would you add those up? Yeah. And your arrangement with her, Miss Henderson, was that you each paid half of the utilities. Is that right?
Yeah. Can I say something about that too? Back in April or May of 2021, I went to her to speak and ask about me paying less for water, gas, and electric because she brought all of her Airbnb laundry. She has a cleaning business. And our washers and dryers were going constantly.
And
she didn't meet me halfway, so I was stuck paying half.
Fine.
I have the total whenever you're ready. 507.51.
Divide it by 2.
$254.
1243 less 254. 1243 is what she's owed now, less the security deposit. I love this case. Couldn't be more excited about it.
$989.
Judgment for the plaintiff, $989.
Your Honor,
They're finished. Thank you very much. We're done.
Court is adjourned.
Thank you.
It's sad that I lost, but I put up a good fight.
I'm happy with the decision.
She didn't want to live with me, that there were issues. Why would you turn in a lease to renew for a whole nother entire year with someone?
It's been a lot of stress.
I wanted her to file suit so I could see her in court in order to take care of the matter.
I had nowhere to go, and I didn't think she was going to renew, to be honest.
0 roommates. Don't do it.
I mean, I went into it thinking that this was going to be a good situation. I really got along, and I loved her and her kids, and I don't know that I could have done anything different.
So the new phenomenon that I've seen over this past generation, for as long as I've been in this business, is because of the economy, people having to live together that are neither in love with each other or related to each other. And I actually think, Sarah, that's such a very hard thing to do. Mm-hmm. You know, this isn't the first case that we've had that involved adults and their kids having to, for financial reasons, move in with each other. I think I've always said, and I don't know how you feel about this, that I'd rather live in a shoebox alone than with strangers in more comfortable surroundings.
Sure. I think that's a tough call that a lot of people are having to make nowadays with the cost of living and inflation.
Young people.
2 single mothers trying to live together with their children to give them a home environment. So it's a risk that you take when you don't know the other person. Even when you do know them, we see family members fighting all the time. So I think it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I don't know. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that people have to make those kinds of choices for happiness. Shouldn't create that kind of stress.
I think the best thing you can do is have a concrete contract to fall back on for if something like this happens, because it's a very stressful situation.
Yeah, but nobody wants to take that risk. Yeah. Nobody wants to, who's signing a lease agreement, say, if it doesn't work out, this is what happens. Well, that's never between the tenant and the landlord. As between those two people, maybe it would be enforceable, but not between the two tenants and the landlord.
Landlord still gets his money.
Landlord gets his money. Stay with people who you love, or you have to love.
Suing her former boyfriend, Ryan Trunell, for the cost of a car, an assault, and filing a false restraining order.
Court come to order. All rise.
Be seated, please.
Hello, Judge. Hi. Case number 204, Bernero versus Trunell.
Thank you, Kevin. Now, you have to tell me, are you Miss or Mr.?
For the duration of this case, I will refer to as Mr. for legal terms.
Mr. Trunell.
Correct.
Okay. Ms. Bumel, you and the defendant dated for how long?
2 years.
And according to what I read, during part of that period of time, you lived at your mom's house.
Yes.
From when to when?
From January to May.
Of what year?
2021.
Had you lived with each other prior to that?
Yes.
Where?
At his mom's.
And how long had you lived at his mom's?
About a year, once I turned 18.
Prior to your moving into his mom's, were you ever together?
Yes.
Where?
Well, we didn't live together. We were just, we were seeing each other, I mean.
From when to when?
From April to December of 2019. And then I moved in at the beginning of 2020.
So for a long time. Did you have plans to marry and
yes.
Had you discussed it?
Yes.
True?
We had those conversations, yeah.
Great. This case actually has to do with funds that you put in to a car that was supposed to be used by both of you, but since you didn't have a license, the car was put in your name. And the relationship took a bad turn, and you have the car. Is that right?
Yes.
And you, Ms. Bimel, want the money that you put into the car.
Yes, we agreed that I would get my half of the money if he kept the car.
Well, you didn't put in half the money. You only put in, according to you, a deposit.
Yes.
So you're not entitled to half the car. At most, you're entitled to your deposit back, and that's what I have to determine. Now, Mr. Trunell, the allegation is that you filed a false restraining order against the defendant, and I believe you spent a little time in custody. Is that correct?
Yes, they took me in and fingerprinted me.
And that was after the breakup?
Yes.
All right, so let's go to the car. You were living with your mother when the car was purchased?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Trunell, month and year the car was purchased?
May of 2021.
So that was immediately prior to the breakup?
Yes.
What kind of car was purchased?
2014 Ford Focus SE.
And the purchase price?
We put down a deposit of $7,000. Total purchase of the car was just under $11,000.
So there was a finance charge
Yes.
on the car. Who financed the car?
I did.
Through what institution?
My bank account. I was paying it through my debit card while I was working.
I understand that, but what institution? What
Bank of America.
credit? Bank of America. And what were the monthly payments?
$200 around there.
So if the car was purchased immediately prior to the breakup, the plaintiff really didn't get any benefit or use of the car. Very little, maybe at most 30 days. That be a fair statement?
I'd say so.
Fair statement?
Yes.
And how much, Ms. Buellman, did you put into the car?
I put in $6,000.
Is that correct?
Correct.
I'd like to see proof that you put in $6,000.
And then I also have bank statements.
Sarah, would you do me a favor, just add up these figures for me, please? I'd like to see the bank statement.
There's one page that is not highlighted.
Totals to $7,000, Your Honor.
What is this that you gave me?
My bank statements for what I paid at CarMax, and then what I take out, I did because I did a cash deposit. So everything I took out at the ATM, I put right into my cash flow envelope I had for savings for the car. But there are 2 CarMax transactions. I did it in cash because I was told that it would be cheaper if I did it in cash because it won't be taxed if it was compared to a card.
Yeah, but these figures don't add up to the same thing as that.
Well, he did pay a little because that is $7,000.
No. But these figures I have on the 13th of May, which is when this car was purchased. I have you took out $800. You took out $1,520. You took out another $100.
Yes.
I may be missing something, but that's all I see.
No, and then, like I said, the ATM on the other 2 bank statements, it says $700, $800, and I believe in our $500 for everything I took out in cash for down deposit.
I'm not following that. Are you understanding this? Take a look at this.
Sure.
So she's saying that these PNC bank statements was cash withdrawals that she then used towards, I'm assuming, this large $5,380 first bill, because the totals from this are only total to $2,420.
Right. Well, that's all I have. That's your bank statement. This thing that you handed me first is actually unreliable because my 14-year-old child could make that up on a computer. I'm looking at your bank statement, which looks different from my bank statements, but I'm prepared to accept it. Do you have the invoice for the car that you purchased?
I have the contract, the bill of sale.
Contract. Yeah, I'd like to see it. And I'd like to see your bank statement, please.
I don't have bank statements with me.
Any reason?
In my search, there were no correlations on May 13th towards the purchase. Only records that came up were towards the insurance and car payments that followed after the date. So I did not believe it was reasonable for me to submit that as evidence.
In the future, you should let the fact finder determine whether it's reasonable or not, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, when you finance the car, what this requires you to do is to maintain insurance.
Yes.
And it requires you to maintain insurance for both liability and collision until the remainder of the loan is paid off.
Yes.
Did you?
Yes.
Good. Now, without going into anything else, the two of you are no longer together. We may have to get into that later on the protective order, but the car was totaled.
Yes.
After the breakup.
Yes.
And the car was totaled and insured so that there was payment by the insurance company.
Yes.
How much?
$6,000.
Do you have any proof of that?
No.
Now, when you received the $6,000, the balance of your loan was $7,000. When was the car totaled?
September 29th of 2021.
So you had the car for a few months and made a few payments?
Yes.
Okay. Well, this looks to me as if she put down most of the down payment.
Yes.
And that at most you paid registration, tags, and a couple of car payments, which didn't total $6,000.
Correct.
Well, why didn't you give her the rest of the money? Are you following me? I mean, that doesn't seem like rocket science. It wasn't your money. The two of you broke up. And it's clear to me that you had a minimal investment in this, dollar-wise.
The reason I didn't was mainly because I was the only person that could hold on to the car and keep it legally. Because it was under my insurance, I was able to finance it from there.
Okay. Well, what you should have said to me was, I got a check for $6,000, but the $6,000, didn't that have to go to Bank of America?
Yes, it did. It went to Bank of America, went to my account. I used it towards paying off medical bills from the accident, and I used it towards rent for my home.
Well, why didn't you use it towards paying off the car loan?
The insurance company had paid off the rest of what I was owed to pay on the car to CarMax. They paid it off.
Oh, so they paid it off, plus they gave you $6,000.
No, let me correct. I apologize. I'm very nervous. The insurance company, after the incident, had paid off the rest of what was owed to CarMax from me.
Okay, so the insurance company paid off to the lender.
Yes.
Which was left, which was, let's say, $6,000.
Yes.
And in addition to that, they sent you a check.
Yes. I used that check towards my bills, and I used it towards my rent.
Okay, well, that you can't do, because that really wasn't your money. You didn't spend that money. Didn't you feel as if it was appropriate to give it back to her?
I would have if I wasn't in the situation that I was. And
what situation were you?
I was injured.
Who is this? Is this your mother?
Yes.
Okay. Are you living with your mom?
Yes.
Okay. Well, so you weren't on the street. I assume that you feed your child when you have to.
He was actually taking care of me at that time.
Oh, great. Well, if you had the money to take care of your mother, then you should have returned the money to her. So she's entitled to that money. You were compensated for it by the insurance company, and you had no right to keep it for your own bills. Okay. Got it?
Yes.
Easy. Easy peasy. Now, next is your allegation that he assaulted you and filed a false restraining order.
Yes.
Okay. So now let's jump to you are no longer living together. This is after May of 2021. You had an encounter, according to your papers, with the defendant. Tell me when and where that happened.
So October 6th at a Gloucester City Park, right down the street from where I was staying. So I walked there. And we both agreed for me to pick up my things because he still had some of my belongings.
Did you make the appointment to meet by text, by email?
Yes.
Text?
Yes.
Anybody have those texts?
Let me see if I do.
I do not. My phone was destroyed.
I only have the text from when he texted me the car accident when I said I was planning to take my car back. And right after that, I then planned to meet up with him to get the rest of my stuff back.
Okay. Well, you don't have the text involving that. Okay. So you did, in fact, meet at a park.
Yes.
How did you get there?
I walked there. I was staying at a friend's house.
How did you get there?
I drove my mother's car.
Okay. Now you're in the park. Tell me what happened. And this is in October.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So we meet at the park, and he gives me my belongings. And then I asked him, because throughout the breakup and afterwards, I knew there were some things he was hiding from me. So I asked him if he was hiding anything, and to get some closure, I just wanted the truth. And so from then, he was getting a little frustrated about it. And I was just saying, I don't know what I did wrong. And then he threatened to hit me. And then I said...
You said to him, I don't know what I did wrong.
Yes.
Because he moved out.
Well, from the reason he told me we broke up, he said it was mental illness. And then I felt like I wasn't helping if I could do any more. I felt like I could have done more because I was very accepting of who he is now. And so since that happened and I was so accepting of him, then he threatened to hit me. And I was very confused. And I just said, okay. And then he shoved it and swung at me.
And at no time did you hit him?
After that, I did defend myself and I did hit him.
What did you hit him with?
Just my hands. I pushed him just to get him off of me.
Was he injured?
By scratches, yes.
Where?
On the face. There was like 2 scratches I saw.
And what about you?
I had bruises on my shoulders, both shoulders, and then I had a swelling on my head.
Either of you have photographs of the injuries?
I do.
I'd like to take a look at them.
I told her that you need to understand that you did me wrong too. She said, so what? I pushed her. She swung first. I swung back. We fought. She punched me in the face twice.
So after you pushed her, according to you, she swung at you.
Correct.
Okay, well, you didn't expect her to give you a kiss after you pushed her. Did he discuss with you a co-ownership of the dog, which would mean that you would share the litters if the dog was bred?
Yeah, he did.
And you gave him no part of the $3,500?
No.
So, do you want to tell me what your defense is to this? Because your counterclaim is ridiculous.
"20-year-old Hannah Buhlman says ex-boyfriend Ryan Trunell is responsible for a car down payment and injuries from an assault. Ryan said he was the one assaulted.
Either of you have photographs of the injuries?
I do.
I'd like to take a look at them.
Thank you.
How did it end, the incident in the park?
So I just pushed him on the ground and I walked away.
And where did you go?
I first went back to his house. I did go to his house because he still had one of my big bags.
Okay, so after this incident, you pushed him down. You went back to his house with him?
No, I with my friend.
Well, your friend wasn't with you in the park.
Yes, I walked to my friend's house. I let him know what happened, and then we drove to his house so I can get the rest of my belongings that I couldn't carry home.
And what happened when you got to his house?
So I told him, I said, hey, I'm sorry. I even put my hands up and I'm like, I just want the rest of my belongings back because I didn't think I would get it back. And so then he just told me, sorry, I told you I was mentally unstable. And I'm like, I just want my stuff back. And I grabbed it and I left.
So you got your things back?
Yeah.
And you both said, I'm sorry. Does that sound correct?
No.
Well, tell me your version of, you had this argument in the park.
We had an argument in the park. She was asking me questions about why the relationship had ended. I had explained that it was through emotional turmoil, mental illness, and that she was not being very supportive. She was very toxic, and she was very aggressive with me. And when I had told her that I was going through all of this stuff and that I felt bad for things that happened in the relationship, I told her that you need to understand that you did me wrong too. She said, so what? I pushed her. She swung first. I swung back. We fought. We broke up the fight in the beginning. I apologized. Her items were on the ground. I picked them up. I handed them to her. She punched me in the face twice. Post that, grabbed my hair, pulled it, and then we broke up the fight after. I got in my car. I went home first. She went back across the street to her friend's place. I was at the apartment. I was just talking to my landlords about some stuff that my mother and I had to take care of. I don't exactly remember. As I was coming back up from the apartment, her and her friend had walked up, threatened to charge me with assault, and demanded the $7,000 for the car then and there. I said I didn't have it. I apologized for what had happened.
You didn't have it? You apologized for spending the money?
Yeah.
That's what part of the argument was about, back at your apartment.
Well, there wasn't an argument on that. I apologized for it, but she still wanted the money. She demanded the money.
Well, so the money was part of the argument.
Yes.
Did you both go to the police station?
Yes.
Yes.
And who went first?
I did.
But you didn't go to the police station immediately after the incident. You went to the police station after she said she's going to charge you with assault.
Yes.
And do you have a copy with you of the police report that you filed?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
You have a copy of the police report you filed?
I do not.
You do not. Okay. So you were not injured, and what I'm putting together here is that you went to the police station and filed this because she had threatened to go to the police and charge you with assault. You went there, got there first, and you got there second. Is that right? And by the time you got there, is that the time they took you into custody?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever, Mr. Trunell, seek medical attention for any of these injuries that I see in these photographs?
No.
The answer is either yes or no.
No.
And you do acknowledge, Mr. Trunell, that the initial aggressor, physical aggressor, which is what you testified to. Let's go back to his initial testimony, Whitney. I believe he testified that, not sure, she was aggressive, she was loud, she wouldn't accept it, and he pushed her. But I'd like to get the exact wording.
So I told her that you need to understand that you did me wrong too. She said, so what? I pushed her. She swung first. I swung back. We fought.
Okay, so after you pushed her, after you put your hands on her, according to you, she swung at you.
Correct.
Okay, well, you didn't expect her to give you a kiss after you pushed her.
No.
All right, Ms. Buhlman, I'm looking at your complaint, and your complaint is seeking $6,000 in damages. Well, you already have, according to you, that money invested in the car, which he got back. So you are entitled to that. And since that's the extent of your claim against the defendant, I'm granting your petition in the amount of $6,000. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished here. Thank you.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
There were a lot of factors going on, I believe, just between both of us.
I'm just more than grateful to finally get this over with. I've been waiting too long and
Just a lot, I think, that I had to work on, too.
fighting for it and put so much work and time into it.
A lot of the things that were going on in my head was me being depressed, having to deal with a lot of what was going on in the world at the same time, too.
Well, he was like trying on makeup and stuff when we were together, and I was showing him how to do makeup, and I was being very supportive and just telling him, you should get help, go get a therapist.
I felt like she was pushing me away.
And I don't know why he thought the other way around, because
We just both go our separate ways, and we both just try and be happy. And
I didn't know what to do, and what I was doing I thought was supportive.
That must have been a very difficult breakup for both of them after being together for a significant number of years. But that's tip number 1 of Judy Justice is never put your hands on someone. And tip number 2, never purchase property, dogs, cars, timeshares with someone who's not your legal partner or without a contract. I mean, we've seen this time and time again.
Those people who don't follow that advice have kept me in business for 27 years.
We'll keep telling them that.
You're right.
Case number 2021, Parker versus Miles. All parties, please step forward.
Frankie Parker is suing his tenant, Miranda Miles, for the cost of a French bulldog.
Mr. Parker, this case is about a puppy that you allegedly sold to the defendant.
Yes, ma'am.
That you want to be paid for. She has some sort of nonsense counterclaim.
Yes,
which I will get to and resolve quickly.
Great.
So, Mr. Parker, you have a home that has 2 units in it?
We have a triplex, so it's a house and then it's a triplex behind the house.
So you live in the main house?
Yes.
Behind the main house, there are 3 units?
Yes.
When did you rent one of the 3 units to the defendant?
I rented it to her around February. I think I put the ad in early February.
Of what year?
2022.
Is that correct, Ms. Miles, that you moved into the unit in approximately February of 2022?
It was March, but yeah.
You put the ad in February?
Yes, ma'am.
Moved in March. And what was the rent that you had?
$1,250.
You have children?
Yes.
How many?
1.
How old?
9.
According to what I read, you decided to go into the dog breeding business.
Yes, ma'am.
You knew nothing about dog breeding.
Well, I know about dogs, but I didn't know about French bulldogs. That was kind of new to me.
What is your regular business, sir?
Property management.
Other than the property that you live in, do you have any other property that you manage?
Yes, ma'am.
You're really supposed to be sort of an expert before you go into the breeding business.
Yeah, well, I had
dog
a lot
breeding
of
business.
help.
That's sort of a foolhardy thing.
I had a lot of help. I wasn't by myself. I had people that was already breeding. They had 20 years.
Okay, so you had somebody to
yes,
give
ma'am.
you sort of
I
instruction.
didn't just jump into it.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And you decided to breed French bulldogs.
Yes, ma'am.
You purchased your first 2 French bulldogs, a male and a female, when?
I purchased them around January.
Of 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
And then you bought another one.
Yes, ma'am. Another good
When
female.
did you purchase the other one?
I bought the other female around February.
Okay, that's about the same time that you posted an ad for this unit that you moved into.
Yes, ma'am. All around the same time.
And that dog, I believe, based upon my recollection and my memory isn't what it used to be, I think the dog's name is Dolce.
Dolce, yes, ma'am.
How old was Dolce when you purchased her in February?
She was approximately 3 months.
How much did you pay for her?
I paid $3,200 for her.
And did you have AKC papers for her?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, according to your complaint, when the defendant moved in, she moved in March, she moved in with her 9-year-old daughter. The 9-year-old daughter saw this dog, Dolce, became attached to the dog,
yes,
fell in love with the dog, and the defendant agreed to purchase the dog.
Yes, ma'am.
And you acknowledge that you agreed to purchase the dog.
Yes.
In March of 2022, how much did you agree to pay Mr. Parker for the dog?
When I rented the apartment, he's told me $2,500.
He told you 20.
That's not true.
Now,
I said $3,500.
Miss, shh.
He comes to my house, he knocks on my door randomly all the time. He put cameras on
Then
all
move.
my neighbors.
Listen
I
to
don't
me.
have the money.
Listen to me. Well, that's again not his problem. He wants his rent on time, and he would like to be paid for his dog.
Frankie Parker claims his tenant, Miranda Miles, owes for the cost of a French bulldog. Miranda is countersuing for harassment and invasion of privacy.
Miss Miles, I want you to think more clearly. Try to be clear. He had just paid $3,200 for the dog.
I didn't know that.
So, according to you, he agreed to sell you the dog for $2,500.
Yes. And then he changed it to 35 when I moved in.
Oh, so before you moved in, he said 25, but after you moved in, he said 35. Yes. Did you agree to pay him the 35?
Yes.
Okay, so now you have an agreed price of $3,500, which sounds more reasonable than 25 because he paid more for the dog.
Yeah, that's not entirely true. I told her $5,000 at first, but we'd do a co-ownership, which brought the price down to $3,500.
Okay. Right now, she agreed to pay you $3,500.
Yes.
She doesn't understand from co-ownership. You're talking about breeding down the road. Did you pay him any part of the $3,500?
No.
Okay, now let's go further. Are you still living in the unit behind him?
Yes.
So now that's March, April, May, June, July, August. Did you pay March's rent?
Yes.
April?
Yes.
May?
Yes.
June?
Yes.
July?
Yes.
And August?
Not yet.
Did she pay everything except August so far?
Yes, but I had to take her to court to almost evict her to get the money.
Okay. When did you start eviction proceedings? In what month?
I started eviction proceeding in June.
How much behind in rent was she?
She was just that month, but she had been late 2 prior times. So.
Okay. How late is late?
Well, I give you a grace period up to the 4th. Sometimes it's like the 10th.
Sometimes it was like the 10th.
Yes.
So we're not talking about months late.
No, she always paid.
When you took her to court to evict her for non-payment of rent, she came up with the money.
Yes.
Now, we're August 5th. Now, did you pay your rent?
Not yet. Honestly, I'm struggling. I'm unemployed right now, and he knows my situation with my bank and my account right now, and he knows why. I have no funds at this moment.
Oh, but that's his business.
I get it.
See, that's his business. Do you work?
Not at the moment.
Why?
Because I got fired.
Why?
Because I didn't have transportation, and I've been.
So you didn't go. Well, if you don't go to work or if you come late, then you get fired.
Right, and I also have health problems that I've been going through as well.
That is also, Miss Miles, not his problem.
I know.
Now, I'm going to go back to something that Mr. Parker said, because I think that it's sort of important for me to be able to resolve your counterclaim, because for sure you owe him the price of the dog, which you still have, correct?
Yes.
Did he discuss with you a co-ownership of the dog, which would mean that you would share the litters if the dog was bred?
Yeah, he did. I wasn't very clear about it, but yes, he did. And I was willing to do that, so I was able to afford the dog.
That's going to help me resolve the issue. And you gave him no part of the $3,500?
No.
So, do you want to tell me what your defense is to this? Because your counterclaim is ridiculous. I don't even remember what it is. For harassment, slander, invasion of privacy?
He comes to my house, knocks on my door randomly all the time, every day.
Then move. Just a second. Then move.
He put cameras
on
all my neighbors.
Listen to me.
I don't have the money.
Listen to me. Move.
I don't have the money.
Well, that's, again, not his problem. He wants his rent on time, and he would like to be paid for his dog.
Right.
Okay, let's move on
Okay.
to something that's viable. Okay? Let's talk about this breeding of the dog, which I think would be absolutely ridiculous. Have you taken the dog to the vet?
Yes.
Dog's gotten its shots?
Absolutely.
Okay. And other than the fact that you say you're not working, there's no reason that you're not paying him for the dog, which you originally agreed to.
No.
$3,500, judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. Thank you very much.
But, Your Honor, she's supposed to get full breeding rights.
I'm not giving her full breeding rights to anything. She can't take care of herself or her 9-year-old. She has no money. How is she going to breed a dog?
We can't do the co-ownership.
No, you're not doing a co-ownership, sir. She just bought the dog for $3,500.
That wasn't the agreement.
Oh, just a second. You keep the papers. Do you understand?
Okay.
You keep the papers. She doesn't get the AKC papers.
Okay.
She keeps the dog, which means she's going to take care of the dog, get it spayed, do whatever she's supposed to do with the dog. Okay. You get $3,500, and don't make deals like this again. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Great.
This court is adjourned.
I wanted either to have the full dog and no co-ownership, but I guess it didn't work out for me.
You know, I was trying to get the whole amount so we won't have to do a co-ownership anymore, so you can either get the dog, the whole rights to it, or just pay me out.
I think he was trying to help me pay for it, and that's why he said the co-ownership, because I was unable to pay for the whole $5,500.
The whole rights to it, or just pay me out, you know.
I think that's what he was trying to do.
But I think overall the judgment was fair.
We live next door, so we have to.
I hope that we can actually do this together, and
We're good. Me and him are good.
I hope it does run smoothly and we don't have any more like mishaps.
The case itself was easy, Sarah. Promised you buy the dog. Your daughter is in love with the dog. And he said, well, I can't pay for it. This time, the dog is attached, and he seems like a very, very nice man. But we had two little Maltese dogs once. I don't know if you remember them.
I remember the stories.
Do you remember the story? You were too young to remember the dogs. They were two little yappy Maltese dogs. And we thought it might be an interesting experience to breed them.
Oh, yeah. Two New York City judges.
Two New York City judges decided that it was the worst experience. First of all, I remember after, and I think we had two or maybe three in the litter, and I couldn't leave them home. So I would take them in a box in my car to the courthouse and open the drawer and keep them in the drawer so that I could feed them, because this mother that wasn't a very good mother for the dogs, and she didn't want to be bothered feeding, so I had a bottle that they had to be fed every 2 hours.
Oh my goodness.
It's
a full-time job.
It was a full.
You get involved.
It was a full-time job. That's it. But it was our last time. You really have to know what you're doing. Otherwise, it's really not fair for the dogs. That's one of the reasons why she did not get the AKC papers, because she's having a hard enough time taking care of herself.
But now she has a pet that her 9-year-old and her can enjoy.
Daniel Schumann claims his former landlords, Diana and Donald Back, owe for an illegal eviction, security deposit, and an assault. Diana and Donald are countersuing for apartment damage.
Now, illegal eviction, return of security deposit. And you lived there until when?
Until June of this year.
Now, in June, something happened, and that's where your girlfriend has some information, because it was June
3rd.
You are Gina.
Yes.
Perfect. You and Gina were in bed asleep. Does Gina have her own car?
Yes.
Do you have a car?
Yes.
So that's 2 cars.
Yes.
Where are you supposed to park?
Well, we don't have a driveway, so you can park on the street if you want.
Okay, so you weren't parked anywhere near the house?
No, across the street.
Correct?
Yes.
So his cars weren't blocking yours?
Yes, they were.
Where was your car parked?
My car was parked out front behind his disabled spot that he has for himself, and only him.
Just a second.
Behind.
There's a disabled parking spot on a public street?
Yes, but it's only his, for his number only. So no one else could park there, or they get ticketed and towed.
Even if you're disabled?
Shh.
Yeah, even if you're disabled, you're not allowed.
Did you get a spot assigned to you, sir, assigned to your car because of a disability?
Yes.
What's the nature of the disability?
I had 2 cracked vertebrae in my neck. I dislocated my left shoulder. I have herniated and ruptured discs in my lower back and nerve damage down my left leg.
So you have a place to park?
Yes.
Were you or your girlfriend Gina in any way blocking Mr. and Mrs. Back's car?
No.
Okay. Did you see where they were parked?
Yeah, she was parked on the street in front of the house.
Their car was parked in the street in front of the house?
Yes.
Okay. Go. June 3rd. Where was your car?
So my car was parked behind his disabled spot. My husband came in and showed me a ticket that was on my car, and I couldn't understand it because there's no meters or anything. And when I went to look at the ticket, it took me a little time. I checked it. It was for unregistered vehicle. First time in my life I've ever done something like that. I went online right away because I said, I know I did this in April in my mind because I do everything online. Obviously, I never sent it through, and I didn't realize it. Cops in the town have a scanner. They scanned my card, they gave me a ticket. I'm responsible for that. I understand that. But when I spoke to the cop, he said...
No, don't tell me what the cop said.
Well, I can get a ticket every 12 hours. So I panicked. I said, okay, I'm going to try...
Now I understand what's happened.
But I needed to get my car
Just a second. So now I understand what happened. She got a ticket parking on the street. And the ticket for parking on the street was for having an unregistered vehicle.
Yes.
Your car was not parked in your designated handicapped spot. Instead, you and Gina were parked in the street.
Yes.
So she came to you to ask you to take your car and put it in your handicapped spot so that she could park in the driveway.
No.
Well,
we just asked for, just needed one of them. Can you see,
Just a
look
sec.
at this picture?
Just a sec.
And then you'll understand what I mean.
You asked one of them to move their car?
I tried to just get in touch with both of them at this, just get their attention.
You said, Miss Back, no to me very fast. I want you to listen to what I said.
To go in. There's six parking spots on this lot. So I didn't need him to go in his spot, is what I'm trying to say.
It doesn't matter.
I just needed him
You need to move?
get through. He could have stayed there the whole night if he wanted to.
Okay. And what time was this?
My husband walked in about 20 to 9. I started to look it up, thinking that something was wrong. By the time I figured that out, then I knocked on the door.
Just a second.
No
Give me a
answer.
time that you went to his door to knock at the door.
I started knocking on the door about 9 o'clock, a little bit after, maybe 9 o'clock. And then I proceeded to text and I proceeded to call.
Okay. Now, prior to that, Mr. Schumann, prior to that date, at about 9 o'clock, when was the time immediately prior that you called the police about the behavior or a complaint about Mr. and Mrs. Back?
After.
Shh.
Okay.
What don't you understand?
When I called the police, it was probably about 9:45.
No, prior to that night, when she wanted you to move your car, when was the time immediately preceding that you called the police about any conduct of Mr. and Mrs. Back?
Yeah, I don't remember the date.
Give me the month and year.
Oh, wow. It was...
So far, we have
maybe
2018.
Maybe 2020.
So that was the second time that you've called the police?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You keep saying that. Okay. 2020. What was that about?
What that was about was she was downstairs with her friends. They were smoking so much marijuana that we couldn't breathe on the second and third floor. And Mrs. Zanino called her and said, you guys got to knock it off. You got to stop. We can't breathe up here. Had to open the windows, had to turn on fans, and I had Blake there.
May I see the police report?
That one I don't have. They wouldn't give it to me. They said...
Just a second. That they said you don't have that police report, but that you called because of smoking marijuana.
Yes.
Okay. And that was the time immediately preceding the call at 9:45 in June of 2022.
Yes.
There were no calls in between.
No.
Is that correct?
One after, but not before.
One after?
2 days later.
2 days after the
altercation. Yeah.
After the altercation. Okay. So now, according to you, you and Gina are in bed, sound asleep at 9 o'clock. Yeah. Where is your son?
He's downstairs on the second floor. That's where his bedroom is.
Okay. But downstairs, when you want to get in, do you get in from the second floor or the third?
Come in the house, you got to come in from the first floor. And then...
Walk up a flight of stairs. So you have to pass where your son is. Your son is on the second floor.
Oh, yeah. If I'm going up to the loft, the bedroom door is right there. Yeah.
Okay. What's your son's first name?
Blake.
Blake, stand up. Move over next to your father. You're 15 years old?
Yes.
15-year-olds don't go to sleep at 9 o'clock at night. June 3rd, 2022. Where were you?
I was in the bathroom.
You were in the bathroom?
Yes.
All night?
No, not all night.
Well, when were you in the bathroom?
Around 9:30.
When did you hear banging on the door?
It was around that time.
It was around 9:30?
Yes.
What did you do?
Well, I didn't know what was going on.
No, you heard banging at the door?
Yes.
Did somebody say something?
Not
well. Look at me. All you have to do is remember this. Don't speak, Mr. Schumann. Don't speak to him.
No, he's nervous.
Don't speak to him. He won't have to be nervous if he tells the truth. So you see, you just have to cool it. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Perfect. You have people who call the police on you all the time. You're going to get down on the ground, kiss the ground, and say, thank God for they're not in my house anymore. Do you understand?
Kind of.
He's happy. What do you mean, kind of?
Well,
what do you
I
mean,
wasn't ready for the change at the time.
Oh, you sound ridiculous.
Daniel Schumann has accused his former landlords, Diana and Donald Back, of wrongfully evicting him and keeping his security deposit.
You came here. You brought him. Just remember that. You came.
I know.
You brought him. What did you hear when you heard banging at the door?
I heard Don scream, Dan.
You heard Mr. Back?
Yes.
Scream what?
Dan. And
Dan.
yes.
And that's your father.
Yes.
How many times did you hear him scream Dan?
Only once.
Once. And are you out of the bathroom?
Well, I did.
That's not an well.
Sorry.
Are you out of the bathroom or still in the bathroom?
I'm still in the bathroom.
Okay, so you're still in the bathroom.
Yes.
Was the door open or closed?
Closed.
Closed. So behind a closed door in the bathroom, you heard Dan from the floor below.
Yes.
Dan. Now, what did you hear after that? Is not an answer. What did you hear after that? Dan. Now, you knew somebody was looking for your father.
Oh, well, I panicked, sort of.
You panicked?
Yes.
Because somebody was looking for your father and you knew it was the landlord?
Yeah.
You knew it was the landlord?
No, I didn't.
You just told me that...
I thought someone was trying to break in.
You mean, just a second. Blake, let's get real, okay? Let's stop with the scripted scenario that your father is giving you. Because if... Don't speak. Because at 9 o'clock at night, if somebody is banging at the door and calling your father's name, then it doesn't sound like a break-in to me. If somebody's banging at my door and somebody is yelling out, Nana, Nana, I know they're not trying to break into my house.
It wasn't.
Do you understand? Do you understand?
It was the whole house was shaking.
Okay.
The entire house.
Mr. Schuman, I'm not speaking to you. Do you understand? You brought this ridiculous lawsuit. You brought this ridiculous lawsuit.
The truth has to be told. I can't tell.
Just a second.
Because they're lying.
Mr. Schuman,
No, you're lying.
You're lying.
Mr. Schuman, you brought this ridiculous lawsuit, except for one thing. I'm finished with you. Sit down.
Your Honor, I wasn't even the one who called the cops at first.
Just a second.
The neighbor across the street called first because...
Mr. Schuman, you have a police report?
Yeah.
Then I'd like to see where the neighbor across the street called the police.
Yeah, that says it in
Just
there.
a second. I'd like to see it.
He also called.
Shh.
Okay.
Yeah, when I called, they said someone else has already called.
Give this back. Give this back. They don't understand not to talk. All right. I'm about finished with you. You moved out?
Yes, I was illegally evicted.
Great. It's a great thing that you moved out. It's a great thing that you moved out because you don't want to be with such bad landlords who yell and scream in the middle of the night, who smoke marijuana around your 15-year-old son who would never think of doing that, right? Right?
Yes.
Yes, of course. And so it's a good thing that you found someplace else to go.
Well, it is a good thing.
It's a very, very good thing.
Stress that's off me now.
Perfect. Then it's what we call a mitzvah that you moved out. Okay? The only thing that I'm entertaining on either side is, on your side, the return of your security deposit. Do you understand?
Yes.
How much was your security deposit?
$1,750.
When you left, did you get any of your security deposit back?
No.
What date did you leave?
It was the last day of June.
So it was June 30th. And you paid June's rent?
Yes.
So now you're going to have to explain to me, Mr. and Mrs. Back, and I think I'm going to go to Mrs. Back, why you kept their security deposit.
Well, Your Honor, he signed a lease when he first moved in.
Just tell me why you kept their security
Because
deposit.
he was asked to give me 60 days notice, written 60 days notice.
Forget it. There are people who call the police on you all the time. You're going to get down on the ground, kiss the ground, and say, thank God for they're not in my house anymore. Do you understand? Do you understand?
Kind of.
He's happy. What do you mean, kind of?
Well,
what do you
I
mean,
wasn't ready for the change at the time. That's why I always ask for 60 days notice.
Oh, you sound ridiculous.
I'm sorry.
You sound ridiculous. Do you understand why she sounds ridiculous? You had very, very bad experience with your tenants. Police were called. I don't know. I've lived in places all my life. Police were never called on me as a tenant. I never called police on a landlord. Out there in the near audience, I want to know how many of you ever called the police about your landlord. Raise your hand. I just want some idea. Raise your hand. Don't tell me the truth. Okay, good. Now, how many ever called the police on a tenant? Look at all this. How many times?
Twice.
Great. Landlord or tenant?
On a tenant.
You called about a tenant?
Yes.
About a disruptive tenant?
Yes.
So, with the exception of Kevin, who is a businessman, entrepreneur when he's not here, taking care of my business here, and he called the police twice because of a tenant. Nobody else has ever called the police, so you should say, thank you, landlord for getting rid of these tenants who called the police and not give me baloney about a 60-day notice. Now, if that's why you kept their security deposit, which is what you said to me, then he gets a security deposit back, $1,750. And that's the only reason you gave me.
It's $1,725, but
Just
I
a second.
didn't finish.
$1,725. You did finish. I said, what was the reason? I asked you twice.
Well,
what was the reason? And what was the reason?
I was letting him go from the 17th when he texted my husband to the 17th. The only thing I wanted in return is access. He said, no, see you in court. So I turned around and held him to his lease.
Very good. Not here. Not here. Okay. $1,750. He gets a security deposit back. $1,750 or $1,725?
It's $1,750.
Take a look. Let's get the number right.
The lease.
This is fascinating.
He signed his lease that says $1,725.
Okay. You have information to the contrary, Mr. Schuman.
No, she's right. $1,725.
$1,725. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're done. Counterclaim is dismissed. We're finished. That's it.
Court is adjourned.
Judge Judy was right about I should be counting my blessings that they're gone.
It was over a silly parking spot.
I'm glad he's out, but I don't think he deserves his security.
I mean, I couldn't teach him how to levitate. I tried, much as I tried, we couldn't get it.
I'll never understand why acrimonious relationships between landlords and tenants would wish to continue on for another 30 days, another 60 days, cut your losses and get out of there. And that's what happened. And the defendant's answer that, well, he was supposed to give me 60 days notice. Why would you want him there for another 60 days?
It's called the police on you, as far as we know, at least 3 times.
Yes.
Whatever. It was just a bad scene. And for some reason, he didn't park at his assigned spot because of his handicap. He parked, whatever.
I think everyone should just cut their losses and
move on and be happy. Life is so short.
Desiree Surratt is suing her ex-boyfriend, Curtis Vasquez, for the cost of a car and childcare.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Hello, Judge. Case 2195, Surratt versus Vasquez.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Surratt, you and Mr. Vasquez were in a relationship for a period of time and have 2 children together. How old are the children?
I have a daughter that's 15 and a son that's 8.
How long did you and Mr. Vasquez live together, if you did live together?
It was a lot of off and on, so I would say maybe a combined time of 8 years.
And does your daughter enjoy a relationship with her father?
Unfortunately, no.
Is that correct?
As far as I knew, that she had a great relationship with me.
When was the last time you saw your daughter, sir?
We spoke just a couple of days ago. You know, she has more time with friends now, but I do speak with her on a frequent basis.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Why don't you wait outside? Okay? Because, Ms. Surratt, I don't believe in, unless it's absolutely necessary, and certainly in this situation, it doesn't sound to me as if it's absolutely necessary to have your teenage daughter as a witness over a couple of $1,000s, which you may or may not be entitled to. Certainly, her father is in touch with her. She said he's in touch with her, which means that they communicate and that they have a relationship. Because I read the complaint and I read the answer, and I have a few basic questions. You're suing Mr. Vasquez, who you haven't lived with in many, many years, but who you share, according to what I've read here, joint legal and physical custody. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that pursuant to a court order?
Yes.
And when was that court order made?
I have a copy of it, so I can tell you.
2011, Your Honor. 2011.
Was there a trial, Mr. Vasquez?
There was a trial, Your Honor, yeah.
Were you represented by counsel?
I represented myself.
And what about the plaintiff? Did she have a lawyer?
She did, Your Honor.
I'd like to see a copy of that order.
It's from 2017.
Well, there was one in 2011.
This is the original one. It hasn't changed since then. We have parenting and legal custody and a child support order, which is separate.
So the 2016 order, the ex parte order, originally granted Mr. Vasquez custody of the children. Yes, you were the respondent in that case. Said on October 28, 2016, petitioner, that is Mr. Vasquez, filed a motion to establish custody and parenting time. The petitioner, that is Mr. Vasquez, seeks joint legal and physical custody. The petitioner also sought an order granting sole legal custody of the children based upon the allegations that his daughter was watching his son without supervision for extended periods of time and that his daughter was not attending school. Child Protective Services did an investigation and actually found that you were not sending your daughter to school.
Correct.
And she was staying home and she was babysitting. Okay. Would you tell me, without my having to go through this whole thing, was there a child support order entered?
Yes.
Ultimately the children remained with you?
Correct.
The final order. And what was the child support order?
The child support order initially was $93 a month. I think I have a copy of it. And then to increase based off cost of living adjustments every year.
Is that $93 a month for both children?
For both children.
Okay.
Yes.
The order was ultimately increased. How much do you pay in child support now, sir?
$230 a month, Your Honor.
I'm sorry. That's not the order.
Well, I asked how much you pay. Were you ever in arrears of payment?
I was at one point, and then I caught up, so I've been caught
Well,
up.
they're catching up, so that $230 may be partly arrears. What is the order?
Oh, I'm completely caught up with my child support.
So the current order that you're paying is $230 a month?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. This is what you're suing for. It is your claim that Mr. Vasquez agreed to pay half of certain sporting fees that the children had that are not contained in the child support order, and he didn't. So you're suing him for that, and he says that you never had such an agreement, that you enrolled the children in sporting activities, and then came to him and said, do you owe me half? Am I reading that correctly?
Your Honor, that's correct.
That's your position?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, so let's move on to the plaintiff's position that you wanted to change the child support order to not what he was paying, but what he was paying, and half of their sporting activities.
We actually had a verbal agreement.
Well, I'd like you to tell me when that took place, what you said to him, and what he said to you. So tell me first when that verbal agreement took place.
It was 2021, probably. Just a conversation between two parents to say if we enroll.
It's a conversation between two parents.
Right.
So he's seeing the children, he's paying his child support, whatever the order was. You have a conversation with him. Is it on the phone or in person? Mr. Vasquez, your father says that he gave you the money. Certainly wasn't today, because 2 weeks later, he writes back, if we could arrange for me to get the title while you were here, that would be awesome. So the story you just gave me was a whole lot of who shot John.
Desiree Surratt claims her ex-boyfriend, Curtis Vasquez, owes for the cost of a car and childcare. Curtis is countersuing for car repairs and vacation expenses.
Tell me first when that verbal agreement took place.
It was 2021, probably. Just a conversation between two parents to say if we enroll.
It's a conversation between two parents.
Right.
So he's seeing the children, he's paying his child support, whatever the order was. You have a conversation with him. Is it on the phone or in person?
No, in person.
At your home?
Yes.
Okay. And tell me about the conversation. What did you say to him and what did he say to you?
I don't remember the exact words, but...
Well, that's why we bring these things quickly, because now it's 2 years later.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was basically, well, he wants to play this sport, Angelina wants to do track, this is how much it's going to cost, and his response was just, okay, let me know how much it is, and I'll pay half.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's not quite correct. We don't have just conversation. We don't have any conversation at all. We communicate via text, and I rarely get a response. I've taken care of...
Just a second. We're talking about this one instance.
Okay.
She said that you had a conversation with her where you agreed to pay half of their sporting events. Based on that, I assume that you enrolled the children in the sporting events, paid the fee, and then said to him, this is your half. And he said, I'm not paying that half.
That's not correct, Your Honor. I didn't agree to pay half.
No, I'm not saying you agreed to pay half. That's what her position is.
I actually enrolled my son into soccer.
When?
It was this summer in July. And he was supposed to go for a month, and she took the kids out of the state without my knowledge for an extended vacation. And so I didn't have her pay half of that. And when she came back, she wanted to make that up to him. But that's without my knowledge.
Okay. How much did you pay for soccer?
$75.
So you never had a conversation with her about paying half of this? And it was never reduced to a modified order of the court because you have a court order for support. Okay, so I'm eliminating that. You want to change the order of support, you have to change it in court. Now let's move on to the second thing that you think that he owes you for. Cell phone. Let's hear about the cell phone.
He opened a cell phone account for my daughter.
When?
I don't know when it was.
When did you open a cell phone account, sir?
About 7 years ago.
And he paid it? He opened an account and he paid it?
Him or his dad. It was a business account.
I don't care.
I don't know
You
who
didn't
paid
pay it.
Correct.
You didn't pay it. So your daughter has had a cell phone for the last 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you didn't see the bills for it?
Correct.
Okay, so he paid it.
Somebody paid it, yes. Yeah.
He paid it.
I paid it, Your Honor.
You didn't pay it?
Correct.
Okay. So now you want money for a cell phone. For what?
Just for the last 6 months that I paid. I never agreed to, so I'm just asking for
Then
half
take
of
the
that.
phone away.
Well, she's 15. She's got
I
a
understand
job
that.
and
I understand that. Who bought her the phone?
I bought the phone.
Okay. And how many years ago did you buy the phone?
It was about 1.5 years ago.
Okay. And it was paid for on his plan?
No, I paid for the phone cash.
No. The bills, ongoing bills, were paid for by him and the phone that you bought her 1.5 years ago, because you said you've been paying the bills for 6 months.
Yep.
Is that correct? Whitney, didn't you say I've been paying the bills for the last 6 months?
Yes. Correct.
Well, so when you first got the phone for a year, he was paying the bills.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
Well, he was paying the bills for 7 years, but certainly after you bought the phone. But prior to that, she had a different phone. She had to have had a different phone because he was paying the phone bills for 6 years. Who bought that phone?
I don't know.
Your Honor, I purchased that phone. It was the iPhone XR.
Okay. So you bought the first phone, you bought a second phone. Very nice. And he paid the bills, the phone bills for 6 years, and you paid it for the last 6 months. It's not part of a court order. If you agreed to do that, you agreed to do that. What are you getting courts involved for?
I never agreed to pay the cell phone.
Well, he never agreed to pay his cell phone when she was 13 or 12. Your parents. He paid it for a long time. Now you're paying it. What do you do for a living, sir?
I'm a realtor.
You work in a family business?
Absolutely.
Tell me about the family business.
It's children first and foremost. You know what's best for them.
No. The family business, sir.
Oh, the family business.
You're in real estate. Is it a family business?
It is not a family business.
It's just yours. And you've been in real estate for how long?
For about 3 years now. And prior to that, I was in sales. That is a family business, and it's real estate marketing.
That's a family business.
That's a family business.
You're not involved with that anymore. You still are.
Yes.
Who owns that business?
Dad.
Your father?
He does, yes.
How many employees do you have?
Just about 10, Your Honor.
So your father employs 10 people and you're one of them?
That's correct, Your Honor.
And what does your father pay you annually?
Oh, it's commission only, so no benefits.
And in the other real estate operation, do you have your own office or do you operate out of your father's office?
My own office.
Where?
In Maple Grove, Minnesota.
Do you have any employees?
I don't.
So you work for your father on commission and yourself?
Commission only as well in the real estate market.
Okay. Did you file tax returns last year?
No, I did not.
Is there any reason for that?
Just late. Just over.
You're late. You're a year late.
Yeah.
What about the year before? Did you file tax returns?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did, Your Honor.
And how much did you declare as income the year before last?
It's like 55, I think. 55,000, yep.
Okay, so phone bill, I've taken care of the phone bill. You paid it for her, fine. And if you don't want to pay it anymore, let her get an after-school job and pay for her own phone. Now, the next thing that you're suing for is, according to your complaint, you had a car that you weren't using. Mr. Vasquez has a father who wanted a car. It is your claim that Mr. Vasquez, without your permission, sold the car, your car, to his father for $700, and you didn't get any of that money.
Correct.
Mr. Vasquez says his father was going to buy the car. He drove it. He didn't want to buy it because it had issues, and it's sitting in his father's driveway waiting for you to come and get it, and that he never got $700 from his father for the car. That's his position, correct?
No, there's a correction. I did get $700 and paid him back the next day because the car broke down within a day.
Because what?
It broke down within a day.
Okay, so you did sell it to him.
Yes, Yes, we were in the middle of the transaction. He paid for the car at the office, which is about 10 miles away from home. And while driving the car home, it broke down. So we hadn't received the title or anything, so I returned the money.
Okay, you planned a trip to Portugal in August of 2022.
That's correct.
Airplane tickets. Where'd you get the money for all that?
Desiree Surratt has accused her ex-boyfriend, Curtis Vasquez, of selling her car without her permission. Curtis claims he refunded the money, and she can take the car back.
Okay, so you did sell it to him?
Yes, yes. We were in the middle of the transaction. He paid for the car at the office, which is about 10 miles away from home. And while driving the car home, it broke down. So we hadn't received the title or anything, so I returned the money.
Is the car still titled in your name?
Yes.
So go get it.
I don't want the car, no.
Well, it's your car. It's titled in your name.
Yes, but apparently I have text messages showing he sold the car without my permission.
Whether he did or not, well, he can't sell the car because title never transferred.
Right.
And he's saying you can go and get the car. It's sitting in the driveway. His father doesn't want it. Title didn't transfer. He didn't get money for the car and keep it. It was a sort of silly transaction because what you are suggesting is he should have said to his father, that's it, it's sold as is. You can't have your $700 back.
Right, and my understanding is that his dad, through a conversation that I had with his dad did not get the money back.
You can't tell me about the conversation. If you have text messages between them, I would like to see them.
I do, yes. So there's those text messages. And I also have several text messages where Curtis agrees to pay me the money and also telling me the
This
car
is
ran
Desiree.
phenomenal.
Curtis said you would take possession of the Kia, but I asked about the title. Big Curtis, is that your father?
Your Honor, yes, it is.
Okie dokie. Mr. Vasquez, your father says that he gave you the money.
That's correct.
And that it certainly wasn't a day because 2 weeks later, he writes back, sorry, not good at checking my text. If we could arrange for me to get the title while you were here, that would be awesome. That's 2 weeks later. Your father didn't say to her, he gave me the money back. He said, I want the title. That's 2 weeks later. So the story you just gave me was a whole lot of who shot John.
Well, Your Honor, there's one thing that we need to clear up right away is that it was never sold without her knowledge.
Just a second. Now what I'm asking you, sir, I'm saying that your original story to me was that I sold my father the car with her agreement. That's what you say here, for $700. He gave me the $700, but am I correct, Whitney, that the car broke down the next day?
He said the car broke down within a day.
Within a day, and so you gave him his money back. Well, that's not what your father says here, sir. That's not what your father says here.
I went back and forth with him for days, but I gave him his money back.
No. What you told me was a lie. You told me it broke down the day you gave him his money back. The initial conversation she had was May 9th. And then May 16th, she's having a conversation with Big Curtis. That's your father. Mm-hmm. Sorry for not checking my texts. Can you get me the title? Which means 2 weeks later, he wanted the title. And then your father says about you, Curtis owes me big time money. And I can't get money from him either. That's your father.
Yeah, that's correct, Your Honor.
Big Curtis says to her, can you tell me what problem does Curtis have that caused him to spend massive amounts of money in such a short period of time? She answers, drugs, alcohol, gambling, he's a functional addict. He even got around $40,000 and he blew every penny. So the $700 you gave him for the car, I'm just going to file a small claims. For whatever reason, he's refusing to give it to me. It's not your fault that he stole the money from me. Just FYI, I have no issue giving you the title. Okay. So far, he owes you $700 for the car. And then we're finished. Get Big Curtis the title. Mail it to him. He sends you his address.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Great. Now you have a counterclaim, Mr. Vasquez.
Yes, Your Honor. I have some evidence I'd like to present.
Don't give me all that nonsense. You say that the plaintiff canceled a vacation trip. You made plane arrangements to take your children somewhere, and she took the children out of state. And car repairs that you gave her money for, car repairs, $250. I helped her repair her car and spent $250 on parts. When was that?
That was the car in question that we were just talking about.
Okay, you planned a trip to Portugal in August of 2022.
That's correct.
Airplane tickets. Where'd you get the money for all that?
My parents helped me with the purchase of the kids' tickets.
Why?
Because I couldn't afford all of them.
Who was going on the trip?
It was going to be my wife, myself, and 2 kids.
Did you go on the vacation to Portugal with your wife?
No, we did not make it.
You did not make it?
Correct. Why? Because she is responsible of...
No, not her. Not with your 2 kids. Did you go with your wife?
No, I didn't.
Why?
I didn't want to go without the kids. It was the whole purpose was to bring the kids to see the grandparents.
Does your wife work?
Yes.
What kind of work does she do?
She's a bartender.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $700. Don't make any more private agreements with him, madam. I think it's a big mistake.
I agree.
We're done. Your counterclaim's dismissed. We're
Your Honor.
finished.
Thank you.
We're
I
finished.
had one more.
I just ruled that your counterclaim is dismissed.
Your Honor.
You're finished.
I'm a little disappointed that I didn't get everything that I felt that I was owed.
Well, a bit disappointed. I felt like I had a lot more coming my way.
Number one, I will not do him any favors.
I've taken care of my kids financially for the last 7 years.
Especially of monetary value.
She feels entitled to 6 months, so be it, but I didn't agree to it.
I hope that this is kind of a wake-up call to him.
It's completely ridiculous. I'm just tired of having my name dragged through the mud.
To do honest business, whether it's in personal relationship or business.
I take care of my kids.
He's got a long history of owing money, not paying it back.
Always have, and always will, regardless.
He runs through family and friends and dry your pocketbooks and laugh out the door. He doesn't care.
Claim money for a cell phone that, I bought. And, I think this is all to do with spite.
Just my kids. At the end of the day, whatever's best for them.
I just want to be there for the kids, and I just want to be done with the drama.
I have very little to say about that case, very little thoughts, except that Big Curtis, the defendant's father, doesn't like him.
I didn't get to read the messages, but...
Clearly. He said, what is he doing with all the money? My initial reading of that case was, maybe she's being unreasonable. She's really not being unreasonable.
Yeah.
I have a feeling there's not a lot more to little Curtis than we were able to see today.
Brock is suing horse breeder Jessica Austin for the deposit on a horse.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2136, Dippenbrock versus Austin.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dippenbrock.
Yes.
You bought a foal, which is a baby horse, in utero, which means that the horse had not yet had this foal, but you wanted to place an order for it, and Miss Austin is in that business.
Correct.
You entered into a contract. By the way, what is the gestation period of a horse?
Roughly 340 days.
And at what period in the horse's pregnancy did you enter into this contract with the plaintiff?
Roughly 3.5 months into the gestation.
Okay. Did you have a written contract?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'd like to take a look at it because this is a contract action. And it is your claim that you made a substantial deposit, over $3,000, for the horse, that when the horse was born, it did not meet the specifications of this contract. You wanted your money back. The defendant says that's not true,
Correct.
that the horse did meet all of the requirements of this contract. The one specifically that you're referring to is something in this contract, which I will read, I assume, that says that the horse must be, once born, insurable within the first 2 days or 48 hours of its birth, and that this horse was not insurable within 48 hours, and therefore you decided to terminate the contract. That's your position, correct?
Yes, Your Honor, I request.
And it's your position that the horse was in fact insurable. You say you can prove that because you did in fact get insurance on the horse within 48 hours of the horse's birth? And
So...
No, don't.
Part
Your
of that
position is
statement
that you met the conditions of the contract.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. The deposit for 25% of the purchase price, the seller agrees to hold the foal off market exclusively for the buyer until the foal reaches 48 hours old and is deemed insurable. Well, does that mean that foal is taken from the mother and transferred?
No.
So the foal stays with the mother until it's how old?
I choose to wean at 6 months because they seem to be better adjusted if you wait until that period.
Okay, and it's not that you can't get insurance, it's that a live, healthy foal is defined as a foal that is deemed insurable at 48 hours old. And if the mare fails to produce a live, healthy foal, then the buyer may request a refund of the deposit or a credit towards another purchase. Okay, so the foal was born when?
June 9th, 2022 at roughly 5:30 in the morning.
Okay, your case, your proof.
Okay, so I had to find out the foal was born through Facebook.
Okay, whatever.
Never notified me, and then I went to see the foal when it was a day old on Thursday.
1 day old?
I mean, well, not even 12 hours old, basically.
Okay, so it was not a day old, it was 12 hours old.
Correct, I'm sorry, 12 hours old. June 10th, she told me that vet would be out at 9:30 in the morning to do the routine foal exam, and I had requested to be notified of the results.
Just tell me about the contract. The foal is born alive and is how old now?
She turned 5 months old on the 9th of this month.
Have pictures of her?
I do.
I'd like to see. Oh, she's beautiful.
Thank you.
Have you seen her?
I have.
Recently?
No.
Would you show the plaintiff these photographs? Yes. Looks perfectly healthy to me.
I couldn't get insurance when she was...
Just a second. Looks perfectly healthy to me. And I'm not an expert, but you would say that that horse looks pretty healthy.
Yes.
Okay, great. So now the horse is 12 hours old, and tell me the rest.
So at 48 hours old, I submitted the vet report to 8 insurance companies, and they all declined to insure the animal.
Just a second. You submitted what report? Let me see the report, and let me see what you received.
Okay.
Did you furnish her with a report within 48 hours?
I furnished her with what the vet gave me. He did the vet exam at 24 hours old, but he had to draw blood and send it to a lab.
Okay.
And wait for that to
let me. This first thing is dated June 12th, 2022. And this laboratory is sending the report to you, and it seems that they put the horse on a course of antibiotics initially for 1 day because something came back high. But it says, I do not believe all foals should automatically get antibiotics. However, I stand by our decision to treat what turned out to be a completely normal and healthy foal. We can pull follow-up labs to be sure, but her behavior since the blood sample backs up the lab results. Her behavior since the blood samples, what does that mean?
So for a foal to be considered doing well behaviorally, it needs...
What are you a doctor of, first tell me?
People. Internal medicine.
Okay.
For people.
Okay.
I brought an expert witness veterinarian.
Okay. So now I have these test results, which I don't understand, and I'd like to see your reports from the insurance companies. How long was the foal on antibiotics?
She received 2 doses, one the day the vet came out, and then one the following morning before he got the blood test results back.
Which, when the blood test results came back,
they were normal.
They were normal?
Yes. And he said, don't give any more antibiotics. She does not need them.
And this report that you have from one insurance company, or from actually all of them, say underwriters have declined to provide coverage at this time and will reassess when the foal is off antibiotics. Well, the foal was off antibiotics within 2 days.
Mrs. Austin told me she was on antibiotics for 3 days, actually. And
well, either 2 or 3 days, but then the test results came back normal.
The insurance companies, each of them will wait a certain amount of days. So that particular one wanted to wait 7 days to reassess after the foal had been off antibiotics. A few of the companies were 30 days, and I think one was 14 days.
Well, but that doesn't matter. All you need is one.
I was taking a risk without having an animal that's uninsured, and I wasn't ready to.
This is problematic for me. Because if I put a deposit down on something that I really wanted, and within 2 or 3 days, any question with regard to whether or not the animal was insurable or healthy, if my intention was to honor the contract, I would say, let's see if the results are normal or abnormal. Now, the results came back that the foal was perfectly healthy. So unless you had, in my view, something preconceived that you wanted out of this deal for some reason other than insurability, it's your horse.
I signed the contract based on the fact that she could be insured. The year before, I purchased another in utero, and that foal was insured at 24 hours old, and with the same type of contract. I wasn't going to enter
that's all right, but that's all, you understand what I'm saying to you. You understand what I'm saying to you, because my problem is, after I made the deposit, according to you, some things came to my attention that gave me anxiety. This is before the foal was even born. I learned about several of plaintiff's horses that had to be put down. She had horses that were unsound, lame, and missing eyes. Her young horses were jumping and running in paddocks with huge boulders. I also found out that she tried to sell the mare that was pregnant with my foal to a friend of mine. It was unsettling.
Correct.
Right. So I'm trying to just put this in chronological order for myself to understand whether there was a true breach of this contract. You have a counterclaim.
Yes, Your Honor.
For what?
When I originally got the notification from the court, I got kicked in the head by a horse on July 4th, and they had done testing. I'm out of work. They said I have a cognitive deficit.
What does that have to do with what you want?
Later.
So this is a picture of the car before he painted it?
No, ma'am, that's after.
Oh, it doesn't look bad.
From afar.
Listen, when you're born in 1964, everything looks better from afar.
Diane Deppenbrock is suing horse breeder Jessica Austin for the deposit on a horse. Jessica is countersuing for breach of contract.
The foal is born on the 9th of June.
Correct.
Was given a dose of antibiotics on the 10th of June.
Correct.
Because they were suspicious of something before the blood was drawn.
Correct.
Given another dose of antibiotics in the morning of the 11th.
Correct.
The blood results come back on the 12th, which indicates that the horse was totally normal, and you advised her, correct? That the
I
test
immediately forwarded the email to her, correct.
Okay. Now, the foal is 50 hours old, and you're told that the foal is totally healthy. I'm not sure that I'm comfortable with your position that there was a material breach of this contract. I think that a perfectly healthy horse was born, and it was within a reasonable period of time, may not have been 48 hours, but if they were being very cautious in starting the course of antibiotics. You're the vet. Stand up and tell me if I'm not seeing something. The vet who saw the horse, was that you?
It was not.
Okay. Evidently decided that to be very cautious, they would await the blood test result on the horse, on the baby, and start a course of antibiotics that could be stopped if the blood tests came back normal, which they did within a day. Oh, I don't think that there's been a material breach of this contract by the defendants. I think that you're obligated. If she wanted specific performance, that's fine, but you're not entitled to your deposit back.
I have an email from the insurance company from the 21st when she finally told me that the foal was insured.
Just a second.
I can't take that risk for 2 weeks on an animal.
No.
Get insurance on.
No. But your problem is, it wasn't 2 weeks. Your problem was, it was less than a day within adding it on to that 48-hour period. And I have to determine whether that was a material breach of the contract. Certainly, if the lab results came back that show that there was any deficiency in the horse, I would say absolutely you're entitled to your deposit back. But they did not. They came back and they said that a vet wanted to be very cautious but the vet turned out to be wrong.
My contract didn't state anything about a vet.
I'm telling you, I don't find that one day was a material breach of the contract, because if you had then on the third day sent the normal blood test results out to the same insurance company, the insurance company would have found that the horse was insurable.
They wouldn't, because they wanted to wait 7 days until the horse was off antibiotics.
Then you wait 7 days. That's still not a material breach. She's not asking you for the rest of the money.
So if something would have happened in those 2 weeks, I would have been out $9,000.
That is not
just a second.
accurate.
You were not. You weren't going to take the horse until the horse was 6 months old.
I wasn't going to take the horse if it wasn't if it couldn't be insured.
Well, it could be insured. It turned out that the vet was cautious and you were wrong. And I believe that you had already made a decision in your mind.
I had not already made a decision.
Well, I find that there's not a material breach. You don't get your deposit back. Now, horse is yours. You have a counterclaim.
Yes, Your Honor.
For what?
$1,500 for my lawyer costs and another $100 to file the counterclaim.
For your lawyer's costs for what?
When I originally got the notification from the court, I got kicked in the head by a horse on July 4th, and they had done testing. I'm out of work. They said I have a cognitive deficit that they're working.
What does that have to do with what you want? I mean, I'm sorry about that, but what does
I
that
obtained a lawyer to represent me in court because I didn't know if I would be capable of representing myself.
Oh, well, but you are perfectly capable of representing yourself. You don't get your deposit back. So now you have a perfectly healthy horse that you can sell, and hopefully sell for the same amount that you sold it to the plaintiff for, and pay your attorney's fees. Do you understand? Because she lost her deposit. I don't think that there was a material breach of a contract with an extra 1 day to get normal lab results back. Your case is dismissed. We're done. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
As the judge read from the contract, as the seller, I assumed all risk on the foal until she was 6 months old.
Quite a lot of money to make an investment in, and you want to make sure that your assets are covered and that the horse can be properly taken care of if something does come up.
Therefore, the argument that the buyer would lose anything if something happens to the foal is inaccurate.
I'm really happy with the 2 horses that I have, and I'll continue to stick with the ethical breeders that I know.
And the insurance that we obtained was based on the exam at 24 hours old. Therefore, we have proven that we upheld the contract.
So one interesting thing about that case is, as I was looking at the calendar of what day the horse was born and when the vet came out first and when the results came back, the horse was born on a Friday, and then the vet came out Saturday, and I was surprised that any lab sent labs back on a Sunday. So in a business that's so dependent on something you can't control when the horse is going to give birth, why would the defendant put in her own contract a 48-hour, such a tight window for insurability for the horse? Maybe it's standard practice. I don't know standard practices for horses or anything like that. But
you're right, it's a tight window. And my guess is, although I could have asked the question, probably standard in that industry, I'm not sure. But it's interesting to note that in contract law, unless time is of the essence, there has to be some sort of material breach. And, in this case, if the defendant had not had a vet come out and look at the horse for a week, well, that's a different story. She had a vet come out immediately. The vet was super cautious. Vet turned out to be ultimately, thankfully, mistaken that there was nothing wrong with the horse. Got a clean blood test, but the plaintiff had already determined that she had buyer's remorse with regard to this deal. There was another agenda there because the horse looked beautiful as it turned out, 5 months old, and a beautiful animal, and it was perfectly clear within 60 hours.
And the defendant seems to love it now and very proud of it, so it's in a good place anyway.
Yeah. Suing her buyer, Charity Hoovener, for the cost of a golden retriever puppy.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2188, Slaniger versus Hoovener.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Saniker, is this your boyfriend?
Hi, yes. This is my boyfriend and the father of our 2-year-old child.
Okay, you could stand up with her. In addition to a 2-year-old child, you also had 2 dogs. Where were you living at the time of this incident?
So we were living in our house.
In your house where?
In Radford, Michigan.
Do you own the house or rent it?
We rent it.
Are you still living there?
Yes, we are.
Do you work?
No,
You're not, the answer is no.
I'm a writer. I'm also 2 months pregnant too, so.
The question is, do you work and make a living?
Yes.
At what?
Writing.
Okay. Who do you write for?
Myself, self-publishing.
Well, how much money did you make last year self-publishing?
Zero.
Zero.
Yeah.
So the answer is you don't work and you don't make any money. And what about you, boyfriend?
I currently, at the moment, am a custodian for the Hills School District.
Okay, and how much do you earn?
I earn $16.50 an hour.
And what's your rent?
It's $14.45.
Who pays it? There's no question you don't.
He does.
I do.
Impossible. Not at $16 an hour.
Our brother currently lives with
my
brother lives with us as well, so we have a roommate. That's how we pay for it.
And he pays some of the rent?
Yes.
Is your rent current?
Yes.
And you have a car?
I do.
So you have car and insurance. You have a car. Well, somehow you're very economical. Now, you had 2 dogs. You had financial hardship, according to your complaint, and you could no longer take care of the dogs. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
What kind of dogs were they?
Our 1-year-old dog named Courage. He is a Border Collie, an Australian Shepherd mix.
He's a Border Collie?
Yes.
Where did you get him from?
We got him from a breeder back in 2021. It was probably December 2nd of 2021.
And what was the other dog?
The other dog, her name was Danny. She was a purebred golden retriever puppy that we had purchased October 7th, 2022. Yeah.
Okay. Now, how much did you pay for the Border Collie?
We paid $500 for the Border Collie.
I'm still figuring out how you're all budgeting. And how much did you pay for the Golden Retriever?
We also paid $500 for the Golden Retriever.
Where did you get the money from?
A tax return.
So let me understand this. You have a 2-year-old baby?
Yes.
You have a 2-year-old baby. You got tax returns from the only income from the house, which is his, where he earned $16 an hour. And what you did was you spent $1,000 of your tax return on 2 dogs. I just am clarifying that in my own mind. Huh?
Yes.
Yeah, that would be a right. Okie dokie. When you could no longer either physically and or financially take care of the dogs, you put an ad on the internet. What part of the internet?
We put the ad on Craigslist and Hoobly.
Craigslist and?
Hoobly.
It's like another Craigslist type online.
Do you have a copy of the ad?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see them. Okay, so you put ads for both dogs. One, you said small rehoming fee, not a breeder, needs a new home, call for details. The other is the 1-year-old Border Collie Aussie mix, and you had rehoming fee of $200.
Yes.
Okay, this says absolutely nothing about fostering short term, you get the dogs back, nothing. And no other criteria in here.
Yes.
Nothing. So this is your complaint. The defendant answered your ads. You brought the 2 dogs over to her. She gave you $100.
Yes.
Yes. You left the 2 dogs with her. You were on your way back to wherever you lived, in the car, and according to you, you had a change of heart.
Yes. Yes, Your Honor.
And you called her and you said to her, we're coming back.
Yes.
How long did that process take you?
It was within the 2 hours we had left.
So within 2 hours, you called her and said, I changed my mind.
Yes.
And what did she say to you?
She had said that she had given the dog away.
One of them?
One of them, yeah.
Okay. She said, I gave the dog away. Did she tell you to whom? Did she tell you what circumstances? Did she tell you?
She said that she had given the dog to a lady named Cindy, and she mentioned that she gave this Danny to...
You have text messages? Is what you're reading from text messages?
Yeah.
I'd like to see it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a text in the evening, and she says to you, my friend is traveling back to Tennessee now with my friend Cindy. Now, you went back to the house and you picked up one of the dogs.
Yes.
Courage. And did you give her back the $100?
No.
That's either yes or no.
No.
Why not?
We want our dog back.
You made a deal. She paid you $100. She gave you one back despite the fact that you didn't give her any money. Why do you think that this is a deal that you can say, well, I changed my mind?
Brianna Sleneker claims her buyer, Charity Hoovener, wrongfully gave away a golden retriever after promising to keep the puppy.
Now, you went back to the house and you picked up one of the dogs.
Yes.
Courage. And did you give her back the $100?
No.
That's either yes or no.
No.
Why not?
Because she kept the other dog, Danny, which was a purebred golden retriever. The condition was to have both dogs together.
Okay, show me where that is. Show me something in writing where that was a condition. It certainly wasn't in your ad. It certainly wasn't in your ad, which just said you needed to find new homes for both your dogs.
It was.
Did you ever say anything to the defendant about getting a better offer for the golden retriever?
No.
Yes.
Did you ever say anything to the defendant, either on the phone or in a text, that you believed that you could get more for the golden retriever because you had paid $500 for it as a puppy? This was just a couple of months later. It was still a puppy. I'm asking you, did you say anything to her about being able to get more money for her?
Mm-hmm. No, I did not. We want our dog back because of our other dog, Courage. And
what makes you think you can have the dog back?
Well,
you made a deal. She paid you $100. You took the $100. You didn't return the $100 to her. One of the dogs was already rehomed to yet another person. She gave you the dog back. She gave you one back despite the fact that you didn't give her any money. Why do you think that this is a deal that you can say, well, I changed my mind? What makes you?
Because it was in a verbal condition to keep the dogs together.
Absolutely not.
Shh.
Sorry.
It was a verbal condition to keep the dogs together. They were a bonded pair, and she said that if we wanted to, we could.
In what month did you sell the dogs to the defendant?
It was December 4th, 2022.
12/4. Now, you got, according to you, the golden retriever in October of 2022. So you had, at most, the dogs together for 2 months.
Yes.
Yes. Well, that's not a bonding experience. How old was the golden retriever?
She was 2 months old when we got her.
So she was 4 months old?
Yes.
Well, you certainly could have gotten more than $100 for her. She must have been really desperate for that $100.
I really just want my dogs together.
Well, they're not together. Then you should have thought of that before you put ads here. You changed your mind. That's it. You changed for whatever reason. You felt sad in the car going home. Or she's going to tell me that you had a conversation with her that involved money.
No.
I'm ready. All I want to know from you at this point is, and it's really not dispositive of this case, but it was in your answer. Did you ever have a conversation after she dropped the dogs off about money?
Yes.
Tell me about the conversation. When was it? Was it in the car? Or
it was by my door, by my side door.
When? At what point in this? When they came back? Or
when they came back, she said, I got offered a lot more money for this dog. I think you're a scam artist. Yeah. And I want what's due. I want the rest of my money.
What the rest of your money?
No.
I don't know.
No, Your Honor, no.
Never said that.
Yes. No. She got offered more money, Your Honor.
She certainly could have gotten more for this golden retriever. She certainly could have gotten more money for the golden retriever than the $100 that you gave her for both dogs.
Yes, for both.
But she accepted the $100 and she never returned the $100. That's it. Finished. What?
Your Honor, I wanted to keep Courage, and my friend here, Cindy, took Danny.
Oh, so you have the other dog?
I do, yes.
I have the other dog. Well, step up. So you were going to Tennessee?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Tell me about the conversation that you had with Ms. Hoovener.
Yes.
On the date that they dropped the dog off.
Okay. She had called me and let me know that
first of all,
I believe is her name, was going to drop the dogs off.
When did you have this discussion?
That was on the 4th, on December 4th, 2022. She called me, I would be guessing, I don't know, I'm going to say maybe 5 in the afternoon, and told me that, I think her name's Brianna, was going to be dropping the dogs off. For $100. For $100, and she asked me, do you have, $100? And I said, well, sure.
So you gave her $100?
I gave her $100 to give, yes.
Brianna.
And I was waiting, and she was running just a little late. We was going to Tennessee. We had to get diapers and stuff. So I left $100 with Charity, and I said, just in case she comes while I'm gone, you have the money to give her, and I'll come back when, we're done shopping to get the dog.
Okay. Now, when had you discussed with her the $100 for both dogs?
Over the phone, Your Honor.
Tell me about the conversation.
The conversation went, we had discussed the $100 for both Courage and
Do you have
Danny.
that in texts?
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
Not all of them, just
not all of it.
Just the one that she's asking about.
Yeah. How is the dog?
She's doing really good. Yeah, I got her to the vet. She's growing. Oh, she 2 weeks ago was her last shots, and she's already 41 pounds. She's just growing like a weed. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to read this to you. I am trying hard to come up with $100 more, dear. I have 100. And you respond to her, okay, we're just going to have to feed them bread until somebody buys them. Then she answers you, I will come up with the rest. You were just feeding these puppies bread? What's changed in your life financially that you think that you should be able to stretch your budget to feed so far a 40-pound dog and the other one? What's changed? Nothing.
Brianna Sloneker is accusing her buyer, Charity Hoovener, of giving away a golden retriever hours after purchasing the puppy.
Now, you respond to her, okay, we're just going to have to feed them bread until somebody buys them. You were just feeding these puppies bread? That's what you wrote here. Who wrote this, you or him?
I wrote it.
And I would assume that your life circumstance hasn't changed. You're still not working, and he's still working for $16 an hour.
Sure, yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And at that point, back in December, what you said was, I can only afford, in effect, I can only afford to feed them bread until somebody buys them. What's changed in your life? What's changed in your life financially that you think that you should be able to stretch your budget to feed so far a 40-pound dog and the other one? What's changed? Nothing. Ridiculous people.
I was jobless at the time.
Kenyon was jobless at the time, Your Honor.
What?
Yes.
He was jobless in December.
Yes.
You still took your tax returns and bought a dog for $500. Duh. She says to you, they are both really fantastic dogs. And you respond, absolutely they are. It was a nice chapter to have them. Now their fate is with you or wherever their life journey takes them. Glad you have them now. That's what you wrote.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, you're right. I'm probably going to fall madly in love. Anyway, then you changed your mind, and they reached out to Pause Organization and had a chat about last night. Your suspected buyer is being rude to us, and we want our dog back. What's a Pause Organization? What is that?
When we had met her at her house, I was a little uneasy about giving her the dog and taking into consideration the area we live in Metro Detroit. There's a lot of dog fighting there, so I had to be sure that she was trustworthy. So she had mentioned to me that she is a part of the Pause Organization, which is a animal-friendly organization.
Okay. Oh, yeah. You say, now you want the dog back, and you say, option A, you pay us our asking price for the dog. What was your asking price? This is after you already got the $100. Okay. So now, after you got the $100, left the dogs with her, what was your asking price? What was your asking price?
The value of her.
What was the asking price? It's your words.
I'm a little confused. I'm sorry.
Option A, you pay us our asking price for Danny. Or option B, we call our lawyers and take you to court.
Yes, I at the time wanted her to repay the remaining balance of Danny, how much we had bought her for, $500.
So you wanted more money for the dog?
Yes.
Okay, well, you can't have it. You've already made your bargain. Your case is dismissed. We're done here. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I think that there's a lot of evidence, a lot of things that was left out and unsaid.
I thought the judge's decision was fantastic.
I just feel like everything wasn't said properly. That's probably on our part. I don't think it was necessarily fair, but that's her decision.
Cindy and I wanted the best interest in these dogs.
It just didn't feel right, so immediately we went back to get the dogs and keep them and bring them home.
It was about money.
Just stick it out next time. Don't trust everybody.
I just feel as if these dogs were not taken care of.
I hope she does have a good home.
You know, the sadness of that whole case to me, Sarah, is the mindlessness of these two young people. I don't know where they got the $500 during that 2-year period, an extra $500 to pay for each dog. Mm-hmm. I can only speculate. When I speculate, I say to myself, based upon my common sense, neither one of them look like they're robbing a store.
No.
So I have to say to myself, you know who bought them those dogs? The president. Because the only time you get that kind of chunk of money was it your stimulus or extended something. But even if it's extended unemployment, because he was unemployed, you have $1,500 a month in rent, you have a car, you have insurance, you have a 2-year-old baby. What kind of thought process goes into buying 2 expensive dogs?
And
Want
big
a dog?
dogs.
And big dog. Well, one of them was a big dog. One of them was a substantial sized dog. Then you have a 2-year-old baby and you're going to feed the dogs bread. So what do? You have another baby. That makes sense. Makes perfect sense. And I guess I get so excited about it because based upon my history, it's always the children that end up suffering.
I knew you were going there. And it's true.
Yeah.
You're feeding a dog bread and think that that's an appropriate way to take care of an animal and trying to get it off your plate. The first thing I would be doing is making sure I didn't sign up for another child financially, responsibility-wise.
Yeah, well, what are you going to do? Cut the baby's formula with water so that you can stretch it? I mean, they both look like they could use a good meal. I don't understand. I just don't understand the thought process. And it's always the innocents that suffer because even the dogs are innocents. Clearly the babies, but clearly the dogs are innocents. You know, they just want to be fed and have a home with, you're not a 4-month-old puppy eating bread until they can find somebody that can give them something more nourishing. It's absolutely outrageous and irresponsible and tragic. That's what I think. Life isn't getting any different from what it was 40 years ago. It just stays the same.
Yeah. Well, at least the golden retriever is in a good home, goes to the vet, hopefully is getting fed real dog food. So there's a bright side or a silver lining in the end of that. So.
Right. Now, if you could just find reasonable parents.
Autumn Burke is suing her former friend, Freya Brown, for vandalizing her car and an assault.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2186, Burke versus Brown.
Thank you. Ms. Burke, I understand that you and the defendant met when you were both in foster care.
Yes.
How old are you?
19.
And how old were you, if I can ask you these questions, if you're uncomfortable, please let me know. How old were you when you went into foster care?
16, I believe.
Were you originally placed in group homes?
Yes, and through Orangewood Foundation, as well as transitional housing programs.
When did you start transitional housing from group homes?
I started that when I was 17. That was in 2021, where I was roommates with Freya, and we lived there.
Okay, and could you describe the facility where you were living?
We were living in Tustin, an apartment complex where they rent out the rooms, and they have foster kids go in there, and then they pay. Well, they don't pay rent, but it's a transitional program to move up to the extended foster care transitional housing program for after you're 18. So it's better to be placed into this one, so it helps foundation towards the next one.
Towards total independence?
Yes.
And how long did you stay in that facility? Until when?
Like a few months after I turned 18, I got into the Costa Mesa transitional housing.
Okay, from Costa Mesa, do you go into any other facility through the foster care system, or are you then supposed to get a job and get on your own 2 feet?
So this program, the independent living program, it's really hard for foster kids to get into. You have to be set up with all the requirements. And so...
What kind of requirements? Are there academic requirements?
Yeah, academic requirements, working, going to school, meeting with the manager that comes in every week. Yes.
Were you going to school?
Yes.
What school were you going to?
Golden West College.
Are you still going to school?
Yes, I currently am taking a break from this semester, but I'm still going to continue it.
Are you working?
Yes.
And you're living on your own?
I'm renting a room out in Irvine with 2 different roommates.
And Miss Brown, what about you? How long have you been in the foster care system, and how old are you now?
I've been in the foster care system since I was 13 years old. I am currently 19.
Tell me where you're living.
Right now I live in a rented room in a house also in Irvine.
Tell me what you're doing.
Right now I work in sales. I'm a sales associate.
Is it a full-time job?
It's part-time. I'm also in school. I go to Fullerton College, and I'm a biology major.
Interesting. Are you good in science?
I really liked science in high school, so yeah.
Well, you seem like 2 absolutely delightful ladies. I don't know why you got into this kerfuffle, but each one of you claim that you were assaulted by the other. You claim that Ms. Brown caused vandalism to your car. Ms. Brown says that you had her falsely arrested after this altercation, which seems to be an unhappy event over a guy.
Over a guy.
I mean, they're necessary evils, but over a guy. So 2 lovely girls who probably weathered a lot of storms in your life to keep together that most 15, 16-year-olds don't have to do. How could 2 nice girls get into a kerfuffle over a guy?
I have no idea.
Go.
Okay, so on September 2nd, near 10 p.m., I was cooking us dinner, and Freya's sitting at the counter, and then while I'm cooking dinner, I get a call from my ex, and he's just...
From your ex-boyfriend, not ex-husband.
Oh, yes.
From your ex-boyfriend?
Yes.
Okay. And his name is, what's his first name?
I would prefer...
Let's call him Cat.
Cat, yeah. So
you get a call from Cat. Do you know Cat?
Personally, no, I do not know him.
Have you ever met him?
No, I have not.
Okay. So now you get a call from Cat. And how long has he been your ex-boyfriend?
Well, we just had a situationship, like it was just off and on, but he just called me and I just had him on the phone as speaker and...
So you had him on speakerphone, you're cooking her dinner, she's sitting at the counter.
Yeah, and he starts making flirtatious comments like saying if I had any cute friends near around, and I know it doesn't sound right, but...
It doesn't sound good, Miss Burke.
Yeah, but that's just like, I know him and that's like a different story, but regardless, then
So
Freya...
what was he... I want to know what he was saying.
Well,
you have to tell me, because she probably remembers what he was saying.
I do.
So if you don't remember, I'll ask her. What did he say?
He asked in general if I had any cute friends near me or any around. Just saying if there was any cute friends near me. So
Okay.
that he...
That's not what happened.
Okay, so your ex-boyfriend calls you and asks you if you have any cute friends around.
Yes.
And you didn't just hang up on him.
Well, yes. I told him, I said that I can't see him tonight and that he shouldn't be saying that. But the call ended because he had to go because he had to go back to work. So it ended quick.
Wait just a second. He must have said something that annoyed her.
That was it. He just asked
What did he
say?
Okay. You don't remember. What did he say?
He called her. They were talking for a minute, and then she was saying, oh, I miss you, this and that. And he was like, can I come over? At which point she told him, oh, I'm with my 2 friends. And he was like, oh, what do they look like? Are they cute? How old are they? Which I thought was disrespectful to me and also disrespectful to her. I was trying to be a good friend. I informed her of it. And
No. So he was acting like a guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Think before you talk. There's no filter here. So he's saying, oh, really? You can't come over? You have two friends? Are they cute? Are they nice looking? And just to tell you, Miss Brown, I don't think it was disrespectful. I just think it's a stupid remark.
No,
Do you understand?
I understand,
It's
but
just stupid.
The tone and then the content, because it was on speaker, like I could hear everything. So
when he hung up, what did you say to her?
after they hung up, I didn't say anything to her. She said to me, she was like, you don't know him, like we're in love.
And you said
to her?
her?
Basically saying, I don't know him. So I was like, yes, you're completely right. I don't know him, but I don't want to hang out with him, basically is what I told her.
Well, was he coming over?
No, I was just telling her, like.
And what's your version? After he hung up, let me hear your version of what she said.
Okay, so after I hung up, it was just practically some of what she said, but it was more in an aggressive way and with a lot of attitude. And
show me.
I get done with the phone and I'm cooking, and then she wants to humble under her breath and say I don't know, just rude things about the call and just looking at me weird. And I'm like, what's the problem? And I was
okay, so she's looking at you weird, and you say, what's the problem? And she says,
I don't know. She was going off and about, and then she started throwing trash on my counter and then threw it at me.
Your Honor.
Yeah, you did.
That is not true.
Now, I have to tell you something. So far, it makes sense. But then I don't want you to tell me she just went from nothing disrespect to throwing food around the counter. That didn't happen.
That did not.
Okay, so before she started throwing the trash on my counter, she was saying how that I had attitude, but I was telling her that I didn't have attitude. I was trying to de-escalate the situation.
She had attitude. So far, we're not attitude. So far, she's mumbling.
No, that's what
you
she
said under her breath.
Yeah, and then so I don't know, she would, like I said, it was a snap of a finger. I'd never seen her switch like that. And, I was confused. And then after she threw the trash, I told her to grab your stuff and get out of my house. And so I gave her time. She went in my room, grabbed her stuff. I waited by the door. I had it wide open. And she's just cursing and yelling and I didn't want her in my house. And if I would have known she was like that.
No, let's not. Don't go down any tributaries. When you got out to the car, she had a brick in her hand. Was there any damage to the car?
Yes, I have photos, proof to the left driver's side, and there's a video as well of the neighbor's Ring camera showing her vandalizing my car.
Okay, I'll see the video.
Autumn Burke claims her former friend, Freya Brown, owes for vandalism and an assault. Freya is countersuing for an assault and filing a false police report.
There's a piece that I'm missing from this story, but let's say they're following your timeline. It probably makes sense as you got into an argument. You said to her, he's really not that way. He's really a nice guy, and I love him. And she said, well, somebody who really loves you doesn't say, I want to come over and hang out with your two good-looking friends. That could escalate into something that's angry.
Your Honor. Well, the thing is, when she did mention those things, they weren't calm as you expressed.
Yes.
They weren't. They were very aggressive.
They could have been aggressive, but they could have been aggressive.
I didn't see a reason why it should have been that way at all.
Listen, I'm not saying I agree with you or not. But I'm saying that common sense dictates to me that if you're on the phone with somebody that you still like and that you're an on again, off again, and you can't come over today because I have two friends here. Oh, really? You have two friends? Maybe I'll come over and hang out with your two friends. She found that disrespectful. I actually find it disrespectful to you and disrespectful to him. You really have nothing to do with it, Miss Brown. Somebody else was being a schlemiel.
No, I mean, I wasn't saying
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so now you tell her to get out, open her things. She's out the door, and?
Well, no, she's not out the door yet. So then I have the door wide open. She comes, and then we're still argumenting, and I'm trying to get her out of my house. She pushes me, and then I go back into. Yes, it is. I go back into the door, and then she starts hitting on my arm, hitting me. So I'm defending back, and it was just crazy. I didn't realize I had the door wide open for her to get out, peacefully. And
okay, so she pushes you, she puts her hands on you, you put your hands on her, pushing. And up until that point, there's a lot of maybe pushing, touching the arms, touching the hand, but nobody is injured. Is that a fair statement, standing at the door?
Well, I got assaulted because I have the pictures to show that my nail came off.
No, I'm asking you a question.
Yes.
Up until that time, did your nail come off during that time?
Yes.
Was it a real nail or a fake nail?
Both. Both of my nails came off. Like it was
on the same finger. You had a fake nail over your
real nail, and it both ripped off.
Okay,
I have
I'll take a look.
pictures.
Okay, I see a black and blue mark here that's under here.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
And this is on your hand.
Yes.
What was this?
From blocking her hitting me.
What was she hitting you with?
Just her hands. Like she was just like a cat fight. Like she just went crazy, and so I was defending her out, trying to get her out of my house.
Okay. Did you respond to her hitting you?
Yes.
Yes. Do you have any photographs?
Yes, I do have.
I'd like to take a look. So I see a scratch above your eye and a little bruise on this part of your hand. Is that what it is?
Yes, on my wrist.
And then there's a bruise on, is it this part of your elbow?
My elbow, yes.
Okay, so now you're arguing with each other. You both get banged up a little bit. Now she's outside.
Yes.
And what did you do? You finally got her out the front door.
So after a few minutes, she called me and said, "Warning, I'm at your car." So when I heard that, I called the cops immediately, and I asked them to come down because I think she's going to be vandalizing my car or God knows what. And then so when that happened, me and my witness, Jasmine, we walked down out of my house because I wanted to go see like if my car, like what was going on. And so as I'm walking out, my car's parked over here. Freya's over here. And so when I'm walking out, then I meet her right here and she has a brick in her hand. And yeah, she had a brick in her hand the whole time until the cops came, and then they arrested her and they asked me if I wanted to file for assault and vandalization, and I said yes.
Okay, and when you got out to the car, she had a brick in her hand. Was there any damage to the car?
Yes, I have photos, proof to the left driver's side, and there's a video as well of the neighbor's Ring camera showing her vandalizing my car.
Yeah,
oh,
let me see the damage and then I'll see the video.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'll see the video.
Okay.
Okie dokie. That's where you were arrested, Miss Brown?
Yes.
Have you ever seen that video before?
I have not.
You have not?
No.
Okay. Can I see the estimates to the damage
Yes,
to your
ma'am.
car? Tell me when you bought this car.
I bought this car on August 1st in 2022. It was my first car. I paid for it full, all by myself.
You paid for it in cash?
Yes, and a check.
Okay. How long had you been saving for the car?
Oh, I've been saving for it for years, like a few years, ever since I've been working.
How much did you pay for it?
I paid a total of, I believe, $7,300 and something dollars.
Okay. So the estimate to fix the car is $3,777.
Yes, ma'am.
And the next thing is the price of the vehicle, for which you paid $7,350.
Yes.
Now, Ms. Brown, one would say to you as a result of seeing that video, temper, 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 you may have a temper, you can't do what you did. Would you acknowledge that you can't do what you did?
Yes, I acknowledge.
Great. So that means that you have to take care of this problem.
She hit me first, Your Honor.
We're not talking about hitting.
I understand.
I'm talking about vandalizing a car. She says the weapon was a knife.
It was.
And the knife was being held by you.
Yes, that's
So you
self-defense.
took. No, she said it's not in self-defense anymore, madam. It's not self-defense. She's out. She's away from you.
Autumn Burke has accused her former friend, Freya Brown, of vandalism and assault. Freya claims Autumn threatened her with a knife and filed a false police report.
Neither one of you were hospitalized as a result of this assault. You got a couple of black and blue marks. Two girls
also
had a
threatened
fight,
me with a
and
knife.
that shouldn't have happened. But now the fight is de-escalated, and you went outside and purposely vandalized her car in a very, very aggressive way. And all I'm saying to you is, you understand that that was temper. You're not allowed to do that, and you have to pay for it.
She also threatened me with a knife.
She what?
Threatened me with a knife.
Just a second. I didn't see that when you were out there by yourself picking up a brick, right?
Yes.
And that was a long video. I don't see her in that video at all. I just see you picking up the brick, not doing enough damage, picking it up, doing a little more damage, picking it up, going to another side of the car, picking it up, going to the front of the car. I don't see her there threatening you.
She didn't threaten me at that point.
Right. Clearly, when you left the house, that ugly confrontation had been de-escalated.
It had not actually.
Of course it was, because you were out there by yourself. You could have gone. And if it was an ugly confrontation, you go to the police station and you say, I left my license in my friend's car. We had a fight. Could you come back with me on a standby and get my license instead of using a brick to bash in her car?
My circumstances were different from Autumn's. I would like to inform you of that.
What were your different circumstances?
Well, I was supposed to be moving in 3 days, which Autumn was aware of. So had I called the police and been like, oh, I need this help, then I would have jeopardized my housing.
Oh, no, that's not true. Sorry about that, Miss Brown. If you called the police and merely said to them, I don't want to have an argument with her, that would not have jeopardized your getting into housing. Having this fight and vandalizing her car, that could prevent you from getting into housing.
That's what got me kicked out.
I'm just telling you, calling the police is not an issue. Going outside and for a period of probably at least 60 seconds and moving from different parts of her car and hitting it with a brick and bending down and picking up the brick again, that would prevent you from getting into housing.
I wasn't referring to the calling the police, I meant the fighting.
Oh, I'm not talking about the fighting. $37.75, that's the cost of fixing the car. Now, the only other issue that you have on your counterclaim is for being falsely arrested.
Yes.
I would arrest you for that. You should be. Listen, if I came out of my house and found somebody bashing my property, I don't care if we had a long-standing feud. Well, I have a long-standing feud with her. We had an argument. We had a fight, whatever. That is not the natural progression of having an altercation with an old friend, going out and vandalizing her car. So your countersuit for being falsely arrested is dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,775.
Your Honor, I'm going to be rightfully for losing my housing during that process because of that incident, because of the transitional housing program I was in. I got kicked out of it, and so I had 30 days. So I believe I should be getting for that as well because
Where's the head of the Department of Social Services to testify before me that the reason you lost your housing, if in fact you did lose your housing, was because of this vandalism? You have a witness here to tell me that?
I have the 30 days notice, if that counts.
May?
Yes.
I'll take a look.
Oh, here it is.
This says, letters to give you written 30-day notice to move out of the transitional housing program. You were involved in a verbal physical altercation which involved a weapon with another individual and resulted in the police being called on September 1st, 2022. When you entered the program, you were informed and signed paperwork agreeing to our program rules and expectations. Who was it alleged that had the weapon?
She had a knife.
I bought it as self-defense. I dropped it right when I saw you.
Just a second.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I
Just
did.
a second. Well, just a second. She says the weapon was a knife.
It was.
And the knife was being held by you.
Yes, that's
So you
self-defense.
took... No, it's not in self-defense anymore, madam. It's not self-defense. She's out. She's away from you. Your choice is to call the police and wait. Your choice is not to pick up a knife, because so far this altercation has been a lot of tussling between girls that shouldn't have happened, but so far nothing involved a weapon. So you went outside with a knife, and according to the rules, you can't do that. And that was the reason that you lost your housing, because there's no other reason. It said it involved a weapon, and they listed the rules: drugs, alcohol, assault, danger, making threats. Well, you have a knife, that's threats, whatever. 3775. fix your car. You're not allowed to do that to her car. That's a hissy fit. Figure out how to do it. Your counterclaim's dismissed. You should have been arrested for vandalism. Goodbye.
This court is adjourned.
Well, I was in shock. I was like, wow, like over no reason, over my ex calling me, like, come on, like we're adults now. I'm gonna move on with my life and just go up from here and not down here where other people like to take me down to their level. I'm super thankful to have her handle my case today. She is a queen.
You know what I was really impressed with both of those girls, Sarah? You know, I know the foster care system, usually wherever it is, can be a brutal system to negotiate. And these two young women, at least on the surface, appear to have negotiated it in an orderly, reasonable way. I mean, she's living on her own. She evidently worked for a very long time because she saved up and bought her own car. That's a lot of response. That's a big deal.
And to even be able to figure out the system, which even as lawyers, sometimes we have a difficult time navigating things in the foster care system, to figure out this transitional program that better sets you up for the next step, that sets you up better for the next step. I respected that she took the time to figure out
both of them.
Both.
Actually,
their best possible options for navigating the system that they were placed in.
Both working.
Yes.
Both going to school to try to get themselves into a better circumstance. The defendant certainly is a biology major, which is fascinating
Not
to
our
me.
thing.
Not our thing.
Great for her.
But clearly, bright young women who made it to a place at age 19 that's really terrific. And supportive of each other, because one had a license, one didn't, so they were supporting each other. All very lovely. And get into a kerfuffle over nothing.
It shows just how fast all that work and all that preparation for the next step and for the housing can just
unravel. Really sad. That's sad. But they seem like two nice young women, and I think that they have both of them have a shot.
Yeah, to make it back.